Show. Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related channel on the internet, the John Campea YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It is an awesome honor and privilege to have you, my international friends, join me as we gather together around the virtual water cooler to talk about anything you want to talk about, because this is open mic here on the weekends. Now, what is open mic? Well, you see, on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we do a lot of big topics, but then we also save time for live questions. But here on the weekend, that's all we do. It's just your live questions. So that's what we're going to do here today. And I hope you guys have had a good weekend so far. It's been a very good weekend for me. For Valentine's Day, and you guys know I'm not a big fan of Valentine's Day, but for Valentine's Day, just Ann and I had a really simple night. We went out to this cool place for dinner, and then we came home, changed into our PJs, ordered in some ice cream, put on the latest episode of Harley Quinn, and just hung out for the evening doing that. So it was a great evening for me. I hope it was a great evening for you guys too. Hey, gonna let you guys know there's two ways to send in live questions if you want to do it. The best way, and the way you can do any time, is by using the tip link. It's in the top line of the description of this video, or you can just go to streamelements.com/themovieblogtv/tip. Go ahead and use that. Or the other way you can use it is just by using the super chat feature here. So we're going to start off today's show by getting caught up on some of the questions that were left over from yesterday's John Campea Show, and we'll roll right into today's live questions. So let's not waste any time, and let's get right into it. Okay, we're going to start things off here with this. Sam O'Neill writes, I'm thinking of doing a Quentin Tarantino movie weekend. What are your top movies of his? I've only seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Django. Yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is actually not one of my favorites. Django is absolutely one of my favorites. As a matter of fact, I have a hard time deciding whether Django is my favorite of his or whether Inglourious Bastards is my favorite of his. And it's interesting about Inglourious Bastards because the first time I saw, some of you guys have heard me say this before, but the first time I saw Inglourious Bastards, I hated it, and I have no idea why. About 8 months later, I watched it again because I was with the girl who wanted to watch it. And so we watched it again. I'm like, I freaking love this movie. I don't know why I didn't at the time, but those are my favorite ones, Sam. So you've already seen Django. I would say next up on your list should probably be, I mean, at least according to me, should probably be Inglourious Bastards. And then, you know, you've got to get caught up on Reservoir Dogs. A lot of people will point you to Kill Bill. There are not a lot of weak ones, but the one I would start with next if I were you is Inglourious Bastards. All right. Mr. 47 writes, love Eilish's No Time to Die, very fitting. Talking about, of course, Billie Eilish. I said Eilish's. Billie Eilish's new James Bond song that got released the other day. Very fitting. Even more excited to watch the movie. Plus, Batsuit looks great, but the cowl is very reminiscent of Matt Murdock. I don't think so. I think Matt Murdock's mask was more reminiscent of Batman than anything else. But yeah, again, to me, the Billie Eilish Bond song, to me, it sounds like a Bond song. But as we talked about on the show yesterday, we're not going to really know whether this is a good, appropriate song until we see the cold open of the movie, because that's the way the Bond films go, right? They do a cold open scene, and then they do the credit scene with the song. And as long as that song fits with that cold open scene, it could be great. If it doesn't, then maybe it'll feel jarring. We'll have to see. All right, Kong's agent writes, my client would like to withdraw from the upcoming fight. I'm gathering you're talking about Kong versus Godzilla. After watching a previous bout and Godzilla literally vaporizing a foe, we believe Godzilla to be juicing. You also write, nah, bro, I thought I was fighting the iguana from New York City. I didn't sign up to fight nuclear Godzilla. I'm firing my agent for this booking. I mean, but remember, this is the thing about this Godzilla versus Kong movie. A lot of people are still under the impression that Kong is going to be a lot smaller than Godzilla was. Because, of course, in Kong Skull Island, Kong is big, but he's nowhere near as big as Godzilla. But they told us, right when Kong versus Skull Island came out, they remember that Kong that you're seeing is not full grown. And we've seen some toy leaks where Kong and Godzilla are roughly the same size. So we got to keep that in mind. But it's still funny because there are a lot of people that still think that Godzilla is going to be like double the size of Kong, and that's not the case. All right, GT70 writes, Onward, the new Pixar movie, will have 4 dates in theaters in the Berlin Film Festival between the 21st and 24th of February. They are selling tickets in the U.S. for the 29th. I myself have bought my tickets for February 29th to see Onward a week before it comes out. I'm very excited about it. Check to see your local listings to see if it might be available in your area as well as a special date. But the movie opens on March 6th. This means they have confidence in the film. I believe that, yes. I believe that. I believe... First of all, it's Pixar, so they have every reason in the world to be confident. But yeah, I believe them doing this public screenings a week before the movie opens and playing in these festivals over a week before the movie opens doesn't guarantee the movie's good, but it at least tells us that Pixar is confident and Disney is confident in this movie. And I'll tell you what, I was at D23 this year, and they showed us like the first 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes of the movie, and I could not wait. I just can't wait to watch this movie. I'm very, very excited for it. Here's hoping it turns out to be as good as it looks. All right. Suthius writes, would you say that the Predator franchise is one that you like, love, or enjoy, but only actually like 1 or 2 of the 6 movies? And yes, even the Alien versus Predator. I don't like the Predator franchise. I like one of the films in it. So that's a good example of a franchise I don't really like. But so, I mean, obviously the first Predator is a masterpiece. There are people who really like Predator 2, and that's great. But the Predator has not been used right ever since. I was really excited for the Shane Black Predator, the one that just came out last year. I was very excited for that because I'm a big Shane Black fan. I thought it had a lot of potential, and it was just... oh my God, it was awful. So that's probably a good example of something like that, Suthius. All right, Suthius also writes, first Moranis, now Estevez back for Mighty Ducks. Yeah, I read that. Emilio Estevez is coming back for Mighty Ducks. I'm not as excited about that as I am for Rick Moranis coming back for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, but it's still a pretty cool thing to see. All right, 50 Shades of Geek writes, in honor of the Oscars, my local radio station did a special 2 hours of just music from movies this weekend and last weekend. So much fun. That's awesome. I remember in Canada, I was up visiting family in Canada, and my mom had this radio station on, and I still have no idea what radio station it was, but all it was doing was playing movie score music, and I loved it. As a matter of fact, I've got a Google Home in my, I've got one in here in the studio. I've got one downstairs. I got one in my bathroom too. And one of the things that I'll listen to when I go in is I just have this preset station just for playing movie scores. And I love that. So that's really cool that station did that. All right. Dido Cortez writes, rewatched Ben-Hur for the first time in years, one of the best movies ever made. And holy crap, that chariot race was exhilarating. A masterpiece in editing and cinematography. I find it hard to find action scenes this well crafted even today. Do you have any favorite people, old action scenes? Any favorite people, old action scenes? I'm not quite sure what we mean by that, but anyway, let's go back to Ben-Hur for a second. In the age of today, where we are so used to, VFX, whether they're practical visual effects or whether they're digital visual effects or whatever, I believe, don't get as drawn into action today because there's a part of our brains. Now, we still get drawn into action, but I believe we don't get as much drawn into action because there's a part of our brains that knows that what we're looking at isn't real, right? Ben-Hur, they didn't have, back in the Charlton Heston Ben-Hur, they didn't have visual effects. I mean, that's some practical stuff, yes, but that's real horses with real chariots and real people on them. It isn't digital effects. It isn't some computer-generated thing. It's insane. And when you go into watching Ben-Hur, keeping that in mind, that what you're watching is they actually had to do it and just film it with a camera. I tell you, for me, to your point, Dido, it makes the heart pound. And it just gets you that much more into the action. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it's just an urban myth, but I believe like people died making that chariot race scene, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, one of the incredible, if you've not watched Ben-Hur, guys, truly one of the greatest motion pictures ever made. Go back and watch Ben-Hur. All right, anyway. Pat Fury writes, thoughts on Billie Eilish's song No Time to Die? Well, we covered this in the John Campea Show yesterday. I think it's quite good, but again, we're not really going to know whether it's good or not as a Bond song until we see it paired with the cold open of the movie. That's going to be where the rubber hits the road. All right, Aster Phoenix writes, have you heard about the new TV show Maisie Williams is going to be in called 2 Weeks to Live? No, never. Actually, you know what? Let me look that up because I like Maisie Williams. I think most people do. Hold on a second here. Maisie Williams, 2 Weeks to Live. I haven't even heard about this, to be honest. Ooh. And so it's a UK show. It's going to be on the Sky Network, which means it's probably going to pop up here either on Netflix or Hulu or something like that. I like her. And again, look, I haven't really had a chance to watch her in anything other than Game of Thrones because New Mutants was supposed to come out 2 years ago and it's still not out yet, but it is coming. So I'm going to be intrigued by this. I'm interested in this because, again, I really like her in Game of Thrones. I'm looking forward to seeing what she can do outside of Game of Thrones. So that sounds neat. Thanks for putting that on my radar, Aster. Okay, next up, Min Tran writes, John, if Erin already left, which she has, that was yesterday, can you please thank her for me? Knowing myself, I would have never checked out All Rise, and now it's one of my favorite TV shows. Yeah, Erin does a lot of TV work. I mean, and one of the shows that she was featured in this year was the first season of All Rise. And she was great in it. And then she's in, what's that one on CW right now? I can't remember that other one on CW right now, but she's in that one too. Then she just appeared in 911. And then she's going to be in the next season of Lucifer. She's going to be in an episode of the next season of Lucifer. And I just went to go see a new film with her, with the filmmakers. It's called Language Arts. It's a smaller independent film. But if you guys, it's got the guy who plays Detective Douche in Lucifer. He's in it as well. But it's called Language Arts, and Erin's got a large role in it, and love her. She's staying really busy, man. I will make sure I pass that on to her, Min, and I'm sure she's going to really appreciate the kind words from you there. Okay, let's see here. Daniel H. writes, here we go. 9:22 a.m. and no reviews for Fantasy Island on Rotten Tomatoes. Looking fantastic, right? Listen, that we were laughing because the movie opened on Thursday night. All right. We say it's a red flag because the studio clearly isn't all that confident in their movie. If the review embargo doesn't lift until 24 hours before the movie opens. Friday morning, it's after the movie opened because the movie opened on Thursday night. And there was still no reviews for Fantasy Island. Now, give me a second here, because I know the reviews are up now. Last I checked, Fantasy Island was sitting at 17% when I checked, because I did check last night. Let's see, and it's gone down. Fantasy Island is sitting at 10%, and that is so unfortunate. Because when that trailer came out for Fantasy Island, I thought, this looks great. It didn't look good. It looked great. I love the concept, that whole kind of stuff. But then they didn't let anybody see it in advance. They didn't let any reviews drop for it. And even the day after the movie opened, there was still no reviews until later in the day. Never a good sign. Anyway, it's sitting at a 10%, which means somebody liked it. Let me go through here. Let's see if I can find a positive review. I've gone through the first page. Can't find a positive review. No positive reviews. Okay, going on to page 3. Here we go. A reviewer from Polygon gave it a positive review, said, plainly put, it isn't very good, yet there's something disposably entertaining about its mercenary approach. There is your positive review for Fantasy Island, ladies and gentlemen. It isn't very good, yet there's something disposably entertaining about its mercenary approach. Okay, yep, not exactly big high praise. Not exactly big high praise, and that's all right. But there it is. There's your positive review for the movie. Okay, let's keep rolling here. Next one up. Hugo S. writes, I already see the WandaVision Halloween costumes. Oh, yeah, you bet. I bet we're going to see a bunch of those, especially with the classic one that we see her wearing in the trailer. Jeremy Shisabu writes, Loving Vincent is criminally underrated. So good. Is that the one? hold on a second. The guy who from Ocean's 11. Hold on a second. Loving, I believe it is. Let me just double check here. Where'd it go? Or I might be thinking of the one with Chris O'Dowd. Hold on a second. Why won't this load? Give me... There it is. Okay, yeah, it is. It's the one with Chris O'Dowd, which is a really weird appearance. Yes, it was fabulous. It's a fabulous movie. It's also not what you expect. I mean, it's extremely stylized, all that kind of stuff you can tell from the trailer, but it was very, very good. All right, Jeremy also writes, what is your opinion on the Batman kill argument? Oh, that's simple. He kills. A lot of people state Batman would never kill, even though he did in the early comics runs. It depends on narrative, but he's definitely killed people. Oh, he's absolutely killed people. He's 100%. Actually, as a matter of fact, let me go to my Instagram page here just for a second, because there is... something I put up on Instagram a long time ago. Let me see if I can find it here quickly. But yeah, anybody who says definitively, Batman, period, end sentence, does not kill. That's either a good sign that this is a relatively new person to Batman, or because they clearly haven't been following Batman or known of Batman for very long, or they just don't understand Batman at all. And now I cannot find it. Anyway, the reason I'm looking on my Instagram is because, there it is. I found it. Okay, let me do this for a second. We're going to go over to this page here for just a moment here, okay? So we see up here, this is a part of a strip from not that long ago. This isn't like from the 1960s. And Robin thought they should have taken this guy out. Anyway, this is from the Batman comic. And Batman says to him, "I'm not a murderer, son. Murder is the line we must not cross." And people say, "Yeah, see there." But then Jason says, "But you've killed before." And Batman says, "Yes, in self-defense. Jason, you're well aware that we play a dangerous game, a game I perhaps should not have involved you in. Sure, you should. Listen, son, if we're no better than the lice who snuff out human life like it's worth nothing at all, well then," okay, so but in that statement, Jason affirms, "You've killed Batman," and Batman says, "Yeah, I kill when it's in self-defense." Now, there are other examples of Batman where, depending on who's writing and all that kind of stuff, but by the way, I think it was Mr. Sunday Movies. For everybody who got all upset when Ben Affleck's Batman killed, Mr. Sunday Movies did a great video. I think it's like the 60 or 70 times Batman has killed people in all the other Batman movies. And it's a big body list. It's a big body list. Going back right to the Michael Keaton Batman movies, that Batman does in the movies, Batman doesn't indeed kill people. In the comics, historically, Batman has indeed killed people. So when a new movie comes around, I'm totally fine if that filmmaker wants to employ the Batman doesn't kill no matter what thing. Okay, if that's what that filmmaker wants to do, that's fine. If the filmmaker wants to employ a Batman will, when necessary, kill people, well, then that's perfectly fine too, because both in the comics and in the movies, there's lots of precedent for that. So I think anybody who jumps up and declares with absolutism, Batman never kills people, well, then they clearly don't understand Batman or don't know the history of Batman. Anybody who says clearly, Batman absolutely will kill people, well, you also got to understand that it kind of depends on the iteration you're dealing with. But I believe any filmmaker dealing with Batman, because of the history and the precedent set in both movies and the comics, they should have the freedom to decide what their Batman does, because there's precedent for both. Anyway, that's my take on it, Jeremy. Thanks for asking, man. All right, 50 Shades writes, "How do I convince my mom that she doesn't have to watch Joker to enjoy Birds of Prey?" Well, I don't think there's any enjoying Birds of Prey, but that's just me. I didn't like Birds of Prey. To watch Birds of Prey, I'm thinking of using the old Earth 1 and Earth 2 example. Well, the Earth 1 and Earth 2 example is just more confusing than anything else. You just let her know these two movies have nothing in common. They both use a similar character, but they are actually completely disassociated movies. Trying to get into the geek speak of using Earth 1 and Earth 2 verbiage, that could just probably confuse the matter even more. That's my guess at any rate. All right, 50 also writes, why are stormtroopers only ever good at shooting when they're in video games and only when they're shooting at the player? It's true. I mean, despite the fact what Obi-Wan said, only stormtroopers can be so precise. As of when, everything else I've seen in Star Wars pretty much clearly states that stormtroopers can't shoot worth crap. But yeah, when you get into the video games, they're not bad, depending on the difficulty level you're playing at. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I've been killed. I've been killed many times by stormtroopers in various Star Wars video games. All right, Cinema Reviews writes, why does Spider-Man always have witty comebacks for when the villains threaten him? Because with great power comes great response ability. Very nice. Very nice. I'll give you that one. With great powers comes great response ability. That's kind of cute. I like that one. All right, Tristan Thorpe writes, I'm going to wait to see a full shot of him in the suit, probably talking about the Batman outfit, because I don't know what to think considering it was a close-up. I will say what stood out to me the most was the score by Michael Giacchino. Oh my God, I can't wait to hear more. It's funny. A number of people brought up the music, but I honestly watched the little video of the introduction of the Batman costume that Robert Pattinson was wearing. I was just so focused on the costume, I admittedly was not really paying any attention to the music. But a lot of other people were. Rob really liked it. I've heard from a number of people that they really liked the music. But I can't say I did or didn't like it because I was so focused on the costume, I didn't even pay attention to the music. But you're not alone, Tristan. I know a lot of people have really enjoyed the music that we got out of that. All right. Next up, Ryan Cleary writes, shareholders agree to sell Cineplex. So happy. Thoughts? Yes. Super thrilled. I want Cineplex in somebody else's hands. Cineplex is, of course, the major Canadian theater chain. They're being bought out by Cineworld, the UK cinema chain. So glad that is happening because Cineplex has gone from my favorite movie theater chain in the world to one of the worst. So I'm so glad they're going to have new ownership. Okay. Let's see here. Josh Ward writes, worst marketing job, Birds of Prey or Ghostbusters 2016? Almost threw in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom for spoiling the entire movie, but it made a ton of money. Yeah, so they did a great job marketing that. I'd say Ghostbusters 2016. And the reason I'm going to say that is this. That first trailer that came out for Ghostbusters 6, for the all-female Ghostbusters movie, was one of the worst first trailers ever in history. It turned everybody off. And here's the thing about first trailers. You've heard the old saying, you can't get a second chance to make a first impression. There's a lot of truth to that. You don't get two chances to make a first impression. And they just botched that, and they never recovered. That trailer kind of turned everybody against the movie, and they never really recovered. So while I don't believe the Birds of Prey ad campaign has been great, I don't think it's been a train wreck. The Ghostbusters one was a train wreck. All right, Ivan Prieto writes, I'm going to be visiting Canada soon. I'm excited. I'm going to Vancouver, beautiful city. Are there any Canadian foods I should try that we don't have in the States? There's not really a lot. Like, for the most part, Canada and America share a lot of the same cuisine. One of the big differences, though, is we don't put breadcrumbs on our mac and cheese. I've never understand why you Americans put breadcrumbs in your mac and cheese. Whatever. But also, there is a distinct Canadian dish you've probably heard talked about called poutine. I've seen places in the States try to do poutine. It ain't poutine. But if you're up in Canada, see if you can get yourself. Now, Western Canada poutine is a little bit different than Eastern Canada poutine, but if you get a chance to try out some poutine, it'll clog your arteries, but it's really delicious. It's really, really delicious. All right, Josh Ward writes, and another super chat just because I love the show. Raising a glass to you, man. Here's to swimming with bow-legged women. Well, thank you so much, man, and thank you for being a part of the show. All right, let's see here. Where are we at? Samir Tesfaye writes, Battison looks so cool. I like the look, I gotta say. Cooler than I imagined. Reeves is going to knock this movie out of the park. Get hyped, John, because imagine this this Warner Brothers panel at San Diego Comic-Con, the Batman, Matrix 4, and Dune. I'm very much the minority. I am not excited for Matrix 4. And really, whenever I've asked anybody, tell me why I should be excited for Matrix 4. There's literally no reason to be excited for it. Now, that's not to say it won't be great. It could come out and be awesome, and I hope it is. But prior to that, I don't see any reason to be excited for Matrix 4. The first Matrix is amazing, but the second Matrix and the third Matrix went downhill. I mean, nobody likes the third Matrix film. Very few people like the second one. I do kind of like the second one. Nowhere near as good as the first one, but I kind of like the second one. But a lot of people don't, and nobody liked the third one. And then everything else the Wachowskis have done since then, I mean, they've, in my opinion, made some real garbage. And so, yay, Matrix, but I have no reason to be excited for this movie at this point. Again, the movie might be great. I'm going to hope that it's great, but I'm going to have to wait to see it. Until that happens, I just can't get excited for it, dude. But Dune and Batman, absolutely. All right. Eat That Horse writes, not a fan of the armored suit, but I'll hold judgment. Personally, I really hope they go with the wide, round-shaped golden age ears for the cowl. Here's the bottom line for me, though. I don't care. Now, look, I like the look of the new costume, but you guys know how I feel about costumes. They're irrelevant. They just don't matter. If this movie is going to be bad, if this movie is a bad movie, you can put the most perfect Batman costume on him. It's not going to change the fact that it's a terrible movie. If this movie is a really good movie, it don't matter if they don't make the costume to suit your particular taste or my particular taste. It won't matter to us because the movie was great. Right? And so I really ultimately don't care. I don't care. Like hardly in the least. As long as when I look at the costume, I see Batman. You know, like if he was doing a Batman movie and the costume was plaid and it had giant moth wings and golden boots, and no mask. And look, if he made the costume and it looked like you looked at him and you would never know it was Batman, that would bother me. That would bother me. But as long as when you look at it, you can clearly see, oh yeah, that's Batman. Then I'm okay. Then I'm totally okay. So I liked the look of the costume. I think it looks cool. I'm excited for the movie, but at the end of the day, the look of the costume isn't going to make this movie any better or any worse. So I try not to, I don't get too, wound up about it positively or negatively personally when I look at that. You know what I mean? But I thought the costume looked good. I did. I thought it looked good. All right. 50 Shades of Geek writes, Happy Valentine's Day, and I love my dog, Sandy. I love my dogs too, man, and thanks for that. All right. Jorge Lopez writes, Hey, John, Super Chat option wasn't available in Ecuador, South America. It was IP blocked. This is my first. How awesome is Battinson looking? Again, I like the costume. We talked about it yesterday. The costume, and yesterday's show on the John Campea Show, we looked at the Battinson costume, and then I brought up for comparison the design of the Bat costume in the Batman Arkham games. And there's a lot of similarities, actually, between the Pattinson Batman costume that we got a glimpse of and that Batman outfit in the Arkham games. I think they look pretty similar. I think there was clearly influence brought in there. So again, it won't make the movie any better or worse, but I'm with you, Jorge. I really did like the costume. Av Cali writes, but can he turn his head? That's the thing. That was one of the big complaints about one of the earlier iterations of the Batman costume, is that to turn his head, the actor would have to turn their entire shoulders, right? That's going to be the key. Can they turn their head? All right. Let's see. Where do we go here? Where do we go? Oh, there we are. Okay. Sorry about that. Mukbang Reviews writes, I'm sure they're gone by now, but if Rob could tell, not sing, the most beautiful girl in the world, see Prince to Aaron, it would have been epic and awkward. Love your show. Well, thanks so much. Yeah, Rob busting out the old singing pipes the other day. That was both surprising yet entertaining. I liked it when Rob busts out the singing pipes and all that kind of stuff. I like that. I'm sure you did too. Thanks for sending that in, Mukbang. All right, Min Tran writes, she's a Kennedy and she put a shat on it. We were talking the other day that if you guys have not seen the Margot Robbie Matt Shat sketch on Saturday Night Live, Go and look it up. I showed it to Rob yesterday after the show, and we were both just laughing our guts out. It's awesome. I'm glad you liked it. All right, 50 Shades writes, so is Hopper the new Han? No, listen, nobody, look, was there anybody who actually thought Hopper was dead? Because that's the thing, right? None of us thought Hopper was dead. And when you watch the very ending of season 3, they made it obvious Hopper was still alive. So no, I don't think number one, because some people are saying, why did they spoil in that trailer that Hopper was still alive? Come on, who didn't know Hopper was still alive? Everybody knew he was still alive. So no, I don't see him as being the new Han. Now, if they never gave us any indication that Hopper was still alive, which they did, but if they hadn't, and then we went through Stranger Things season 4, 5, and 6, and then suddenly they brought him back at 7, that would make him the new Han. But this, I don't think that makes him the new Han. Okay, Ben Rayner writes, hey, John, I feel like I'm in the upside down about that reveal in teaser. That reveal, I feel like it was in, if it was in another show, people would be complaining that they revealed that in the trailer. Maybe the second, but really in the first teaser, maybe I'm wrong in my opinion. Again, the reason I don't think anybody should have any complaints is nobody really thought he was dead. I mean, maybe you might have thought he was dead for a moment before that ending, but when they showed the ending, that made it really clear Hopper was still alive. Right? I mean, to me, it was like, yeah, to me, the surprise would have been finding out, oh, he is actually dead? See, that would have been the surprise. So, and again, like we were talking about with 50 Shades question, if he had died and then they didn't clearly show us that he was still alive, and then we went 2 or 3 seasons without him being there, and then suddenly he popped back up, then showing him in the first teaser would maybe be a little bit of a spoiler. But in this situation, I just don't see it as such. I really don't. But then again, that's just me. Okay, let's keep going here. 50 Shades writes, all hail Lucifer Morningstar. Can't wait to see the real life goddess Erin Cummings in the show. I'm very excited to see Erin in the show as well. And again, we talked about on the John Campea Show yesterday, TV Line is reporting. It has not been confirmed, but TV Line is reporting that Netflix wants a season 6 of Lucifer, and they're currently in negotiations to get a season 6. Season 5 is upcoming. We were all told season 5 was going to be the last season, but apparently maybe there'll be a 6. We'll see how reliable that turns out being. 50 Shades writes, over under 12%, God makes a physical appearance in the next season of Lucifer. He already had a voice appearance in season 3. He did, and I'm going to say over 12%. Over 12%. And the reason I'm going to say over 12% is because this season 5, again, was supposed to be the final season. And this being a show that they produced under the impression that it was their final season, I do believe we're going to see Lucifer's daddy. I believe we're going to see God make an appearance in the show. I do. So I'm going to go well over 12%, as a matter of fact. Well over 12%. All right. Suthius writes, would you have Johns or Stuckman on or ever if in LA? Maybe. I don't bring a lot of guests in. Like, that's the thing. I really don't ever bring guests in. I mean, if I ever launch like a interview show where it's me interviewing somebody, those would be guys that would be very interesting to have in for sure. But for the most part, I don't swap people in and out very much unless I really need, like, for instance, the other week, I didn't have a co-host for me for a Friday, and Dennis was available, thank goodness. And Dennis, it was a lot of fun doing a show with Dennis again. So Dennis came in and filled in. But other than that, like when I find myself kind of stuck, I don't bring in a lot of guests. See, personally, I like to have consistency, right? I don't like bringing in and swapping in, 10 or 12 or 15 different faces. I don't like bringing in a lot of guests unless I'm in a jam and I need a co-host for a particular day when I don't have one of my regulars. If Rob's not available or Aaron's not available or Chris isn't available, I like to then bring in a guest. But other than that, I really don't like bringing in guests for this show, because I believe consistency is very, 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 very important. One of my criticisms, and I will say this publicly because I told the people at Collider this, so I will say it to you. One of my criticisms about the way that Movie Talk was handled after I left, Because when I did Movie Talk, one of the more important things to me was that you got to keep the lineup of the show consistent. So that's why, for the most part, when we did Movie Talk, it was usually the same group of people. And then on Fridays, we had a different crew do Friday's show. But even then, our audience knew on Fridays we were going to have a different panel led by the great Dennis Zen. But other than that, we normally kept the panel very, very consistent, right? It was normally the same panel. The reason being is shows like this, shows like Movie Talk, shows like some of the stuff they do over at Fandom, people aren't tuning in for the movie news. That's part of it. People are tuning in to hear from the people that they expect to hear from. And I believe that sort of consistency was important. And when I left Movie Talk, they decided that the better move was to every single day have different people on. Every single day was different people. And I told them, it's like, look, you're bringing in some good people, but the thing is, the audience feels better tuning in. There's a reason why, pardon the interruption, is 98% of the time it's Kornheiser and Wilbon, because people tune in to hear Kornheiser and Wilbon on PTI, right? That's why we tune in to watch, because we want to see these guys. We are personally connected with them, for those of us who watch ESPN. And I kind of felt the same way about Movie Talk, that if you're just constantly changing up every single day, you never know who's going to be there, and you never know what you're going to get when you tune in the next day. I believe that dissuades viewers from coming back and tuning in. Now, I could be right or I could be wrong, but I don't think it was a coincidence that the numbers started dropping once they started rotating in the chairs in and out. Anyway, I bring all that up to say that I have a philosophy that in shows like this, it's important to stay as consistent as possible, so that when you tune in, unless there's a very, very rare exception, you're going to get me. Most of the time, you're going to get Rob, and it's going to be Aaron or Chris, and that's it. And that's it. Every once in a blue moon, I'll have a need, and Greg Alba from Real Rejects will sit in for me. Every once in a while, I'll have I'll be short somebody, I don't have somebody to sit in, and Dennis Zen comes in and saves the day. But for the most part, that's why you don't see me bringing a lot of guests on the show, because I actually don't think that's constructive for a show like that. Now, again, Christian did a show for a while where it was like, I think he called it Harloff One-on-One or something like that, where he would interview different people. Now, if I ever want to do a show like that, then yeah, I can start bringing in different guests every week and all that kind of stuff. We could do that for a show like that, but I don't believe in something like that for a show like the John Campea Show. So I'm not saying it could never happen. I'm just saying that's why you normally don't see me bringing in guests. That's that. Anyway. Okay, let's move on here. Tiffany Hoffman writes, did you see the Stranger Things trailer? 11 Dad. Yep. Hopper is in there. We've talked about it already. And I thought it was, listen, it's not a great trailer, but it's a trailer. It's like, hey, everybody, just reminding you, Stranger Things is coming. And just to confirm what we hinted at the end of season 3, here's Hopper. He's still alive. So yeah, I liked it. All right. Mark C. writes, in even better Bat news, Paul Dini and Alan Burnett, the writers behind the 90s animated series, are going to write a new Bat animated comic for DC. What is an animated comic? I'm not quite sure what that means. Anyway, anybody who's associated with that 90s animated show, that's good for me, man. That's good for me. All right. Let's see. Undead Sick 83 writes, hey, John, I'm so glad they are planning to continue Solo, a Star Wars story, in a TV series on Disney+. No, they're not. Can't wait, especially for fan favorite villain Darth Maul. Awesome. I have seen the future Star Wars, and its name is Disney TV. That's, I'm not saying that can't ever happen. I'm not saying that can't happen. I'm not saying that can't be a possibility in the future. But as far as I know, there are no plans I'm not sure where you read that, but I'm going to guess it wasn't someplace very reliable for now. But as far as I know right now, there are no plans for that to happen. And again, it's not that it couldn't be in the future, but as far as I know, there are no plans for that to happen. Let's see here. Undead Sick also writes, "Hey, John, looking forward to the Cassian Andor series." Me too, man. Could be a cool spy thriller and Band of Brothers kind of war series. It could be. Or they could go in a totally different direction, but I am looking forward to it, especially with K2SO. You got Alan Tudyk coming back to do the voice of K2SO, and you have him in there. I'm all on board. I love the dynamic between those characters. Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, General Draven, maybe even Admiral Thrawn as the villain. That would be cool. Fan and me thoughts. I mean, I don't know what other characters will or won't be in it. It doesn't really matter, but I am with you. I am completely down for this idea, and I think really more what it's going to focus on is we saw in Rogue One Cassian Andor lamenting and talking a lot about how he became somebody he didn't want to be, that being an operative like that and a soldier, he's done things he never thought he would have to do. Because, in Rogue One, we got to see the dirtier side of the rebellion. Like, the reality is, if you're trying to mount a rebellion, your hands get dirty. And we saw in Rogue One when Cassian Andor had to give up that dude to get killed. I mean, and for him, he's got a lot of dirt on his hands that he's done thinking he was doing it for the greater good, but still, there's a lot of dirt on his hands. In Black Widow terminology, there's a lot of red in his ledger. He's got a lot of red in his ledger. And I think that's what's going to be the focus of the show. Now, I don't know that for sure, but if they did, I think that would be fascinating. But any direction they decide to go, Undead, any direction they decide to go is good with me. I'm kind of excited. Let's see. Where are we at here? Thanos Kuvaris, right? Sorry, I'm terrible with names, man. Speaking of Jim Carrey, check out his show Kidding. I've heard it's really good. And by the way, again, I'm not a big fan of the new Sonic movie. It's not all that good, but surprisingly, it's also not all that bad. And a true highlight in it is Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey being in that movie could have gone bad really fast, but it went great. And I really, really enjoyed Jim Carrey in that. All right, 50 Shades of Geek writes, "I lost hope for the Sonic movie a long time ago, but hear you talk about the movie gives me hope. I will enjoy it. It opens in my area in 2 weeks, and I'm finally excited for it." Listen, I really believe this movie is made for two groups of people. Number one, children. And so I think children will like it. Number two, hardcore fans of the Sonic property. I honestly believe if you are a hardcore fan of Sonic, I believe you're going to enjoy this movie. I really do. It's not made for everybody else, so I can't speak to what an average film goer is going to feel like going to watch Sonic, and I don't know that a hell of a lot of average film goers are going to go see it. Probably more than we expect. But I got to tell you, I thought the movie was going to be an absolute train wreck. And while I didn't like it that much, it is not a train wreck. It's got its moments, and it's really not all that bad. And I would say if you are a hardcore Sonic fan, I feel pretty confident that you're probably going to have a really good time watching that movie. I don't know about everybody else, but I think you will have a really good time watching that movie. And again, it was much better than I thought it would be. It's still not a great movie, don't get me wrong, but much better than I thought. Much better than I thought. All right, let's see here. Where are we at? Lone Wolf X6 writes, "Who are you? Rey. Rey who? Revenge of the Sith. Bow before your Empress." You know what? Seriously? I think it would have been so cool if they actually had Rey turn bad. I mean, I know they would never do that, but I think that would have been such a cool turn. That would have been really ballsy of them to do in that movie, but they didn't. Whatever. All right, 50 Shades writes, "Do you think the Birds of Prey box office performance prove that not every comic book movie needs to be rated R and that not every R-rated comic book movie is an automatic hit?" Dude, there are 50, I mean, exaggerating. There are tons and tons and tons of R-rated comic book films that they have tried in the past that didn't work. The vast majority of the attempts at R-rated comic book material over the years have not worked. There's only a few examples of when they have. Yeah, there's a Deadpool, and yeah, there's a Logan, but for every one of those, there's 4 or 5 others that did not work. So it doesn't prove it because it's already been proven. It's already been proven for sure. Let's see. Lone Wolf X6 writes, I'm back. Glad to hear all of you again. It's good to have you back, Logan. Thanks for sending that in, man. All right. Jesse writes, the thing I took away most from Batman teaser was the music. Really set the tone and can't wait for the score of this movie. Yeah, again, a lot of people talking about the score and the music and the tone used in that little clip. But again, and I feel bad. So I need to go back and watch this again. But because I watched it and I was just completely fixated on the image of the suit. That had all my attention, and they could have been playing trumpets. Burp, 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 burp. They could have been playing trumpets, and I wouldn't have noticed. All I noticed was the suit. So I need to go back, because so many of you guys, Jesse, are talking about how good the music is. So I need to go back in and watch it again, just so I can hear the music. All right. Eric Mesner writes, seeing this around, Bat Symbol is parts of gun that killed his parents. I've heard people say that, but I don't think that's actually true. I think people seen it and kind of made up this mythology around it, but I don't believe it's actually true. But I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll get in the movie and that'll be it. It would be kind of a cool thing if they did. All right, Jeffrey Hemphill writes, muscle-bound Sylvester Stallone was almost in Batman Dead End, but got cold feet at the last second. That would have been the best Batman portrayal. Well, who knows? That's a wild guess. It could have been awful. But on that topic, I have always felt that if they ever wanted to do a Dark Knight Returns, the graphic novel, one of the greatest graphic novels in history, and really the graphic novel that redefined our understanding of Batman, if they were to ever do a live action version of that comic, they did an animated version of it a couple years ago, which was pretty good. But if they ever did a live action version of it, I always felt Stallone was the guy to play it. I don't know why. I always felt Stallone would be the best Old Man Wayne, who comes back as the Batman to get rid of the mutants. You know what I mean? I just think that would be gold, man. I think that would be absolute gold. Okay, where are we at here? We're at Mark C, who writes, Batman training dexterity and strength suggests gymnastics, not bodybuilder. It's true. However, he's also been portrayed physically, when you look at the art of Batman throughout the years, he's also been portrayed as very, very big. And when you go into the DC role-playing game, yes, well, I am a pen and paper gamer, everybody. I am a pen and paper gamer. And I played me a lot of the DC role-playing game. It was called DC Heroes. DC Heroes was the name of the role-playing game that me and a bunch of buddies used to play. But the stats on Batman was absolutely under strength. The stat for Batman, remember, this was an official DC game. The stats on Batman was he was the absolute physical limit in strength that a human being can possibly, an unaugmented human being could possibly be. So unless somebody had superpowers, no human being could be physically stronger than Batman. He was the most maxed out thing. So both in his portrayal art-wise and in their understanding statistics, you can see a lot of that. But at the same time, they had Michael Keaton as Batman. Worked totally well. Worked totally great. And, you know, they made him look bigger than he was. Robert Pattinson, we showed pictures of Robert Pattinson the other day. He's in great shape, and he's big. He's not Henry Cavill big, but he's big. He's bigger than you. He's bigger than me. And I think he's going to look great. I really do. Jeffrey Hemphill writes, just watched Swamp Thing series on DVD. It was great. Hopefully they put this version of Swamp Thing into the larger DC universe, either TV or movies. Hard to imagine they would, considering they canceled them after one episode. I'll still never understand that. You put out the first episode and then you announce immediately that you've canceled the show? Why would you announce that? Why didn't they? Because this is what happened with that. I didn't watch the first episode yet, right? This is going back when the show came out. I had not yet watched the first episode. And then as soon as the first episode aired, they announced they've canceled the show. That season 1 was going to be it. Nothing after season 1, they've canceled the show. And what that did to me mentally was, well, why would I watch it then? If I already know this is a canceled show, why would I get invested in it right now? And it wasn't until months later, when we had Cody and his wife Allie were up visiting us and staying with us, that we all got into what we put it on, we watch it, but it took months. And I believe there's probably a lot of other people that affected too. If it had that effect on me, it probably had that effect on some other people too. So given the fact that they canceled them after one episode, I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm just saying I would have my doubts that we'll probably see that rendition again. I mean, we did get to see a glimpse of them in that final montage of Crisis on Infinite Earths, but I think that was probably as much of a wink we're going to get. But who knows? Never know. Stranger things have happened. All right. Mike T54 writes, afternoon from Ohio. Well, afternoon, Mike T. Just tuning in, so sorry if this was talked about, but as a huge Batman fan, I'm really not feeling the look of the Batsuit. Maybe it's just me, but the chin area looks weird. Well, it's funny because there's no costume on the chin area, so I don't know what you mean by that. But again, I liked it. But I would say this. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, Mike. I'll say it again. If you are somebody who really likes the costume, and I like the costume, that from what I've seen so far, but if you're somebody who's really into the costume, don't let that get you too excited. Just because the costume good doesn't mean the movie's going to be good. But I would also say the opposite. If you're somebody where you're like, I'm not sure that this costume works for me. Remember, we haven't really gotten a good look at it yet. But the other thing is, I wouldn't let that worry you too much, because just because the costume may not work for you, that doesn't mean the movie isn't going to be great or that the movie won't work for you. You know what I'm saying? So I would say don't get too excited. Don't get too let down by it. It was still just a brief look in a very stylized way. Again, I thought it was very reminiscent of the Batman Arkham costume, which a lot of people seem to like. And again, going back to the, I'm going to bring up the poll that we put up the other day for it. Yeah, we had nearly 6,000 people cast a vote on the poll that we put up. We asked people what did they think of the Batman costume. And overwhelmingly, people said 56% said it's great, 36% said it's okay, and only 7.1% said it was bad. That's it. Only 7.1%. I kind of expected more because, we're fickle people, us fans, so we usually expect the worst. But I was surprised only at the time it was 6.9%. Now it's 7.1%, but 7.1% of people only thought it was bad. But again, don't get too excited yet. Don't get too let down. Let's just be a little patient, see what happens when we start getting a fuller, better idea about what the outfit looks like. But for me, Mike, I got to say, I kind of liked it. Let's see how it turns out. Okay, next up, Tim Platt writes, all film is subjective, I know, but I'm 1,000% with you, John. Birds of Prey is the worst DCEU movie. Yeah, again, and I'm not saying that I think Birds of Prey is garbage. I don't think it's garbage, but I also don't think it's good. I think it is a poor movie. Not super horrible, not dumpster fire. I just thought it was a poor movie. And since I've at least liked all the other DCU movies, for me, Birds of Prey is the worst DCU movie. As a matter of fact, we recorded the new episode. It's going to go up in a couple of days. We recorded a new episode of our podcast, Best Movie, Worst Movie. And the topic of the next one is Best Movie, Worst Movie, the films of the DCEU. We got some pretty surprising names that come up in that. So make sure you keep it. If you're not subscribed to the podcast yet, go to your favorite podcast service. Just search for Best Movie, Worst Movie. Make sure you subscribe. The newest episode is going to be up in just a couple of days, and it's the movies of the DCEU. Keep your ears open for that. Thanks for that, Tim. Okay, next up, Mike T writes, I liked Birds of Prey. I was just talking about how I didn't like it. I liked Birds of Prey, but it felt like DC wants Harley Quinn to be Deadpool. I don't think you're entirely wrong there. I don't think it's egregiously obvious, but I don't disagree with you. It does feel like that just a little bit. Anyway, I don't know if I'm phantom menacing myself out of liking the movie more. I think about things in the film. I loved it coming out. Now it's just okay. Yeah, I always thought the movie looked terrible. But then I heard all these great things about it. And you guys remember, if you watched the show, my excitement started to build up. I started getting turned around on Birds of Prey when I started hearing all these great things about it. But I was let down. I thought it was a missed opportunity. I don't think they had a clear picture of what they wanted this movie to be. And it just kind of fell flat for me. It just fell flat. Which, again, is too bad because going into it, my excitement level started to get up there a little bit for it. But, again, I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's terrible, and I could totally see why there are people who quite like it. That's great. But I just, unfortunately, you and I, Mike, weren't among the ones who liked it a lot. Anyway, Jesse writes, I think the bat symbol size will be fine. I mean, the Dark Knight suit's bat symbol was almost indistinguishable from the rest of the suit. Yeah, I think it will too. Like, the only thing I mentioned, Jesse, was that it was, just smaller. It was a thinner Batman emblem than what we're used to seeing. That was my only observation, was that it was a little bit smaller than what we're used to seeing. But I agree with you. I think it's going to be perfectly fine. All right, Spencer Hunt writes, what did you think of the score on the Batman test? Again, I didn't even pay attention to it because I was so focused on the suit. I got to watch it again. Eric Meisner writes, do you like 4DX? That's my new favorite way to watch films. Never been in a 4DX cinema. Now, my favorite way to watch film is easily Dolby Prime. Dolby Cinema in Prime is the best viewing experience in the world. I've heard good things about 4DX, though. I've just never had the opportunity to really be in one. Lewis Dotson writes, theory, Matrix 4 has Neo, a monitor of the Matrix program. He helps new cast expel a new bad guy program. Would that allow him to be dead but alive? Well, you don't really need to do that in order to have him alive, because remember, when he talked to the architect, Neo had been there already countless amount of times, an infinite amount of times. Neo had already been there to speak to him. So just because this one came to a conclusion, they could have a million different reasons or explanations about why he's back. Or maybe he's like the new architect. Maybe Neo's like the new architect. Who knows? Because the Matrix did end with the Oracle and the architect sitting down, and basically it felt like something was coming to an end and a new beginning. Who knows? But yeah, what you're saying could be possibility. I just don't think they even need something like that because of the way the mechanisms they built in before. But we'll see. We'll see. All right. Jeremiah Roark writes, everybody's talking about the bat suit, but how awesome is again, more with the musical score. How awesome is the musical score? I love it and hope it's the new bat theme for the trilogy. Again, I just got to go back and watch it again to listen to music because I was just too fixated on the costume itself. But you're clearly in good company here, Jeremiah, because a lot of people are expressing the same thoughts you are right now. All right, Nosferatu writes, which actor can you see fit the role of Felipe the Sentient Dancing Microphone? Mine is Taika Waititi. You know what? I don't like playing the whole X-actor and X-role game, but I got to say, if Taika Waititi got a hold of me tomorrow and said, I would like to bring Felipe the Sentient Dancing Microphone to life, I wouldn't say no to him. I wouldn't say no. All right, Major Tom writes, hey, John, I've been blogging about movies for nearly a decade now. Nice. But I've been recently focusing on smaller, low to no budget films as well as foreign films. There's a lot of talent out there that's not part of the Hollywood scene. Some of my favorite low budget foreign films include The Unkindness of Ravens, Furry, Triple Threat. I actually did like Triple Threat. Revenge of the Divine Fury. There's some direct-to-video stuff in there. Well, most of it is kind of direct-to-video stuff. But what do you think about the foreign indie film scene? Listen, there's clearly a bunch that I've seen, but clearly I am not a world's expert on foreign and indie film. Right? Most of my stuff that I focus on is the broader, wide release stuff, is really the stuff that I focus on more. I'll tell you what, though. There was a site, and I cannot remember now. Hold a second. Let me just see if I can pull it. Let me see what Twitch Film turned into. Okay, that's right. There was a guy, and there still is a guy, by the way, by the name of Todd Brown. All right? His name's Todd Brown. Todd Brown is a dude who worked with me in the earliest days of the movie blog. The earliest days of the movie blog. And let me just see. Yeah, there it is. Earliest days of the movie blog. Now, Todd was particularly focused on foreign and smaller film. And we just kind of thought, well, you should probably start your own website. So Todd went and started his own website that for many, many years was called twitchfilm.net. And twitchfilm.net, not to be confused with the video game streamers, Twitch Film was around before Twitch was. But twitchfilm.net kind of became like the go-to, like people who were really into indie, particularly foreign film, knew twitchfilm.net. It became one of the best sites in that space. Todd has gone on to become like he's the producer of the Raid movies now. Todd, like the Raid and the Raid 2. Todd's one of the producers of those movies. He's been a programmer, some major festivals around the world now. And now Twitch Film, I guess it's because Twitch became known for the video game streaming. So they changed the name of Twitch Film to ScreenAnarchy.com. So I want to suggest to you, if you're really into that stuff, Tom, you really should. And actually, you know what? I'll kind of be surprised. If you're into these types of films, I'll be surprised if you're not familiar with Screen Anarchy already. But if you're not, check out ScreenAnarchy.com because they really do focus a lot of that stuff. It is the continuation of Twitch Film. So I think that would be a site that you would really enjoy, man. Go check it out and let me know what you think about it. Okay, here. We move on now. The Nerd Errant writes, where'd he go? I know he was here a second ago. There he is. One of two. The hell, John? Nothing in my post stated that I thought money was not involved in Avengers 4. I used cash-in as a film elitist term for made for money equals bad, but of course the films I like were made for pure reasons. It's a double standard form of criticism, and doesn't matter if it was one guy. Oh, dude, that is the dumbest thing you could say. You're not dumb. Nothing else you're saying is dumb, but that's a dumb thing to say, and I'll tell you why in a second. The Academy has shown for decades biased rules. You just mean they do things that you wouldn't do, so that's what you mean. Biased rules and voting patterns. Moves have been made to fix that, but it's going to take a lot more to win back the trust of people like me. See, here's the problem, Nerd Errant. For those of you who aren't following around here, Nerd Errant brought up the thing the other day that there was one guy in the Academy, one voting member of the 7,000 voting members of the Academy. There was one guy who said he believed Avengers Endgame was a cash-in. It was a cash-in. Okay. That was one guy's opinion. That was one guy's thought. And now Nerd Errant is saying it doesn't matter if it was just one guy. Dude, yeah, it does. See, look, here's the point. One of the great things about the Academy is that unlike, say, the Golden Globes, which is like 65 members, so if you get 4 or 5 people doing something stupid, that represents a significant percentage of the 65. However, the Academy is kind of inoculated against that kind of nonsense by the sheer size of the voting body. So one idiot or 5 idiots or hell, even 100 idiots represent a microcosm, a smallest percentage of the actual voting body. And the voting body, because of its sheer size, is inoculated itself against individual things. Do you know what one person out of 7,000 voting members represents? Here's the math. 0.014%. 0.014% of the voting body. Of course it matters that it was one guy. It absolutely matters that it's one guy. And here's the thing about Endgame. Endgame didn't deserve to be nominated for Best Picture. Everybody knows I'm a huge MCU fan. A bunch of morons out there think I'm actually on Disney's payroll. God, I wish that was true. I love the MCU. I loved Endgame and all that kind of stuff. But as a massive comic book fan, I'm going to tell you, Endgame didn't deserve to be nominated for Best Picture. It didn't. And I love the movie. It didn't deserve to be nominated. Now, that's just my opinion. Your opinion may be different, but here's the thing. Just because the Academy's opinion didn't line up with yours doesn't mean they were biased. If anything, you're biased. If you're thinking the only reason other people aren't seeing things my way is because they're biased, well, I might want to suggest the bias is on you. And listen, we're all guilty of that. I'm guilty of that. You're guilty of that. Every single one of us is watching this has been guilty or might even currently be guilty. We're all in this, that when we see other people not having the same opinion as us, we make up an excuse as to why they don't think the same way as us. You guys haven't made an MCU movie a Best Picture winner. Well, I mean, they did nominate Black Panther, even though Black Panther didn't deserve to be nominated either. But hey, it is what it is. Therefore, there's something wrong with you. You must be biased. It's like, nah. Listen, the Academy is made up of 7,000 industry professionals, cinematographers, directors, writers, actors, studio executives, film journalists, blah, blah, blah. It's made up of 7,000 film industry professionals who are all human beings like you and me. And as human beings, when it comes time to vote for what they think is the best, they're just going to vote for what they think is the best. It might sometimes be something that you agree with, and it might be sometimes things that you disagree with. And once in a while, you're going to get some people in that academy, because it is 7,000 people. You're going to get some people in that academy that are going to do and say some stupid things, or might have some really twisted view on things and blah, blah, blah. That's going to happen. But guess what? If you get any group of 7,000 people, you're going to get individuals in that 7,000. They're going to have some really twisted, weird, awkward views. Your 7,000 member neighborhood is probably going to have a couple of really questionable, bad people. But that doesn't mean your neighborhood is questionable or bad. If the vast, vast, vast majority of the people in your neighborhood are great people like yourself or whatever, then having one or two doesn't mean your neighborhood's a bad neighborhood. So, yeah, Nerd Errant, it does matter that it was just one guy. And no, just because they vote in a way that isn't consistent with the way you would want it to vote doesn't mean that they are, what's the word I'm looking for? They have institutionalized bias. Now, look, you guys just heard me talk about the Academy and the awards. You guys know I have issues with the Academy. You guys know I have issues with the awards and stuff like that. Of course we do. We all do, because we're talking about something that is subjectively voted upon. And just because somebody's vote doesn't go your way doesn't mean there was some hidden, subversive, different thing. And they don't need your trust. And they don't need my trust. The Academy is simply the professional body, and they vote individually how they think things should go. If they felt like Joaquin Phoenix was the best actor of the year, they should vote that. And they did. If they feel like 1917 should be voted best picture of the year, then they should vote that. And many of them did, but more of them voted for Parasite. Well, that doesn't mean they were biased for Parasite. It just means that they felt it was thing. And I think one of the biggest problems that we as film fans have, and this is reflected in the Academy as well. I think one of the biggest problems we as film fans have, and I include myself in this, I include you in this, I include all of us in this. It is a part of a bigger problem that we constantly look for excuses as to why other people don't share our opinions on a movie. You didn't like a movie I liked? Well, then you just didn't get it. Really? You're going to go there? You're going to make that excuse? Oh, you like that movie that I think is terrible? Well, you're clearly biased. Oh, okay. So you're going to make them an excuse. Instead of just accepting, no, they as individuals saw it differently than I did, and smiling about it and go, okay, so let's move on to the next movie. And let's see if we agree or disagree. That is one of the biggest problems we have. And I believe the Academy has to be included in that. And that includes when we as film fans, we look at results and they aren't the results that we would have given it. And so we instantly start making up excuses as to why they're not giving it the results that I think it should give it. But I don't know. I just think that's one of the biggest problems we as film fans have. I recognize it in myself. I have to fight it in myself because I recognize I do it sometimes too. And I recognize even my favorite film people do it sometimes too. But I think it's one of the biggest problems we as film fans have today. And I think we just need to get over it. Anyway, that's just my kind of take on it. But if you're going to ask me, I'm going to give you my take on it. That's my take on it. All right, Min Tran writes, do you think Timothée Chalamet and Saoirse Ronan will win an Academy Award before they turn 30? If so, who wins one first? Hard to say, because I'm not even sure what their ages are. Hey, Google, how old is Timothée Chalamet? Because I think he's like 26 or 27 now.
24 years old.
Oh, he's 24, so he's got 6 more years. Hey, Google, how old is Saoirse Ronan?
25 years old.
She's 25, so technically speaking, Timothy's got 1 extra year. Listen, Saoirse Ronan already has, wrap your heads around this, she's already got 4 Oscar nominations. At 25 years old, she already has 4 Oscar nominations. I believe, I'll tell you what, I'll go out on a limb here. I believe both of them will get Academy Awards before they turn 30. I'm going to guess, Because she's already got 4 nominations, I'm going to guess Ronan gets hers first. But I think the answer is I think both of them get their Academy Awards before they turn 30. I really do. They're just both, it's stupid. It's irritating, actually, how incredibly gifted both of these people are. All right, Jay Bling writes, I completely agree with you about Billie Eilish's Bond theme, John. It feels somber and melancholy by design. I would confidently wager the cold open for No Time to Die will end with some sort of tragedy. That's what it feels like, right? That Billie Eilish song feels like the cold open will end in something very sad or something very tragic happening. If that's how the cold open ends, then Billie Eilish's song and the tone of the song is perfect. However, if we go into No Time to Die and the cold open scene is some high action, high adventure, and it ends with Bond going, I have captured the bad guy, then flowing into that Billie Eilish song is going to feel very weird and very off-putting and very jarring. But I agree with you, Jay Bling. My money right now is on the fact that I believe that cold open will end with something tragic or very sad, which will make that Billie Eilish tune feel perfect for the spot. So I don't know for sure. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Damo Davies writes, greetings from the United Kingdom. Well, greetings, Damo. After watching Close Encounters of the Third Kind again recently, I would like to ask if you would have got on the mothership like Richard Dreyfuss' character did at the end of the movie. I would have personally. No, I would not have. But remember, I'm not Dreyfuss's character. Dreyfuss's character has been looking for this, right? He became kind of obsessed with it. It's been something that became very much a part of him. If I was just randomly there and I had the opportunity to get on that ship just randomly, no, I do not believe. Maybe I'm too chicken, but no, I do not believe in that moment that I get on the ship. Now, point of order here, Damo. Bringing up Close Encounters of the Third Kind, another very old film, Spielberg film, that I think a lot of today's audience have not seen. You want to see some awesome sci-fi? You want to see a movie that has influenced a lot of the movies that you like? Go back and watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I think you'll thank Damo that you did. All right, Damo also writes, my Mount Rushmore, the greatest American actors of all time would be Gene Hackman, he is truly wonderful, Jack Nicholson, Dustin Hoffman, Al Pacino, and Robert De Niro. That's cheating. That's 5. Yes, I would have another face. That's a good one. It's hard for me to think of many more that I might replace 1 or 2, but I'd have to think about it. But that's not a bad one. I applaud the inclusion of a Gene Hackman on there. I absolutely applaud the inclusion of a Gene Hackman. All right. Micah T writes, finally got around to seeing Jojo Rabbit. I really enjoyed it. It made me laugh, very sad at some points, but I was smiling by the end. Great movie. Again, dude, that is why that was my favorite film of the year. Jojo Rabbit to me was the best movie of the year. Parasite, stupid good. It was my number 2 favorite film of the year. 1917, stupid good. It was my number 3 film of the year. Absolutely. But yeah, man, for those reasons that you just listed and a number of others, Jojo Rabbit just did such a great job of constantly pulling on our heartstrings, making us feel like deep and so much sadness and tragedy, and then pulling us into humor and laughing and smiling and feeling hope, and then back into despair and out into something great. It was really something. I was just floored. I knew Taika Waititi was good. I didn't know he was that good, and that really stuck out to me a lot. All right. Sorry. Jacob Silvers writes, hey, John, I have an interesting question. With Hopper coming back in season 4 of Stranger Things, do you think it'll be the Hopper we know and love, or will he be mind controlled by the Russians? All right, interesting question. Here's how I would answer that. And I might be way wrong on this. I could be so stupid wrong, it's amazing. But if you had just told me, hey, there's a new Stranger Things season 4 trailer coming, and it's going to show Hopper in it, do you think he could be mind controlled by the Russians? I probably would have said, you know what? Yeah, that makes sense. I think he will be mind controlled by the Russians. But when you actually watch the trailer, he doesn't look like he's mind controlled. He is a prisoner doing hard labor. He doesn't look like somebody who's under their control. He is being. I mean, it's not like if he was one of the officers guarding other people, saying, "Da, comrade, keep working for the glory of the motherland." I mean, if he was doing that, then yeah. But because I saw the trailer and it kind of looks like, nah, he's just straight up a prisoner. So because I saw it, I'm going to guess he is not under the control of the Russians. Not to mention, as nothing but a low-level local sheriff, it's not like he is a top military. It's not like Hopper is a military lieutenant or general that could get the Russians into super secure locations over in America. He's just a low-level sheriff. So I'm going to guess that he is not being mind-controlled. But it's a good theory, Jacob, and we will see how that goes. It's a good theory, but we will see how that goes. All right, guys. Hey, listen, we've been going for about an hour and 15 minutes now. So what I'm going to do here, if you will indulge me, I'm going to take a little bit of a break for just 4 minutes. I'm going to take a 4-minute break, go rest the vocal cords, stretch the legs, refill my drink. But hey, I wanted to show you something. These are going to be made available here pretty soon. I don't know if you guys saw this maybe on my social media, but we've got some new t-shirts coming, including this Sons of Filthy online original with you can't see it because of the shading there, but it's wearing my Star Wars hat, the one that I'm wearing right now. So anyway, these shirts are going to become available here probably pretty soon. We've already got our first order in for them, and I'm going to give away a bunch of these. We're going to do a giveaway. Once these shirts show up, they should show up here at my place probably by next week. And once we do, we're going to do a giveaway and give a bunch of these away to some of you guys. I'll tell you how you guys can get involved in the giveaway and stuff like that next week once they come in. And then we'll probably make them available to everybody after that. But keep your guys' eyes open for that because I'm really excited about it. I really like this design. So I'm kind of I'm stoked to see it actually show up in physical form. All right, guys, hang tight with me. Don't go anywhere, except if you want to use the bathroom. Go use the bathroom. Now's a good time to do it. And we will be right back in just a couple of minutes. I'll see you in just a couple. And we are back. Thank you guys for your patience and indulgence as I took a minute there to go refill my drink and rest the vocal cords for a second. Now let's jump right back into it. And we're going to get things started back up here with Jetfire97, who writes, "Hey, John." Hello there, Jetfire. Drove home yesterday and saw an electronic traffic sign that said, "No Valentine, your seatbelt will hold you tight." It gave me a good laugh. I like that. Again, I'm not a big fan of Valentine's Day. I don't really care about Valentine's Day. I never have. And I'm really lucky to be married to a woman that doesn't much either. So we just went out for dinner. Really simple. We went out for dinner and then ate some ice cream and watched Harley Quinn, the animated series. So that to us was the perfect Valentine's Day, but that is a pretty funny sign, Jetfire. All right, Ben Sultan writes, "Hey, John, I know you probably don't even watch this show, but started watching this show. It's called The Vampire Diaries. It stars Ian Somerhalder and Paul Wesley. Do you think both of these guys can be the next Doctor Doom?" I mean, I don't know. Anybody could be the next Doctor Doom. Who cares? Anybody could be the next Doctor Doom. I mean, I generally, Ben, don't do X actors and X roles questions, so it could be anybody. It could be absolutely anybody. So I'm not really going to comment on whether I think it could be either one of those two guys. But I will say this. Vampire Diaries, when it first came out, my wife started watching it. And she really liked it. She's actually met both those guys. She's got pictures with her and both of those guys from a couple of times. At any rate, and she got me into watching it. And I watched the first season or two. And you know what? It was surprisingly good to me. I actually thought the first season or two, despite the fact that it looked like this really, and it is kind of a stereotypical CW kind of show. But hey, I'm going to admit it. I watched the first couple of seasons. And I thought it was actually rather interesting. I thought it was, by the way, have you guys seen I got the new chair? I finally did it. I went out and got a new chair, guys. I'll do a special video highlighting the glories of the new chair later, but I love it. It was actually not bad. And as a matter of now, after the first couple of seasons, it started to get kind of silly to me and I kind of checked out of it. But they then did a spin-off series called The Originals, which was about this family of vampires who were the original vampires. Another CW show, and it was a spinoff. But I'll tell you what, I really liked The Originals. I watched the whole series. It's over now. They had their series finale last year. So the show is over now. But I actually quite liked The Originals. It took place in New Orleans with this family, with the Michelson family, with Klaus Michelson, and Elijah was actually one of my favorite characters on TV. He was a really great character, Klaus's brother. And that all came out of The Vampire Diaries. Again, I thought The Vampire Diaries kind of lost its way and got silly after a while, so I kind of checked out of it. But The Originals was actually a really good show, and I enjoyed it. So if you're digging this one, Ben, I would suggest giving The Originals a try. I think it's either 4 or 5 seasons. I can't remember exactly how many seasons it was, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the first few seasons more than the last few seasons, but overall, I actually enjoyed it. And I think if you're enjoying Vampire Diaries, you should absolutely check out that spinoff series because I got a big kick out of it. Anyway, Ben, thank you for sending in such a large super chat and supporting the channel at that level, man. We really appreciate it around here. All right. Where are we at here? We are at Richard Karate, who writes, "I'm a big fan of the Billy Zane movie, The Phantom. I've heard a few people talk about that one. I saw it, it was so forever ago that I saw it. I think it's a fun movie. Just wondered if you think we could ever get a remake on the big screen." I doubt it. First of all, when you look at the context of the movie, I don't think it screams like there's a modern take on it that's needed. Also, when you look at it's not like it's this hugely popular film that would have people aching to remake it. So I don't see that. Also, if you just look at the setting of the movie, it would be problematic. If you've seen The Phantom, you know what I mean. It would be problematic to try to remake that today. I'm not taking anything away from the original. I'm just saying I don't know that you could remake it today. The counter for that argument, though, is the fact that, studios are looking for IP to make. And maybe The Phantom, even though it has not a lot of it, it has some IP recognition. Maybe that's something they could look at in the future. I wouldn't hold my breath, though. My guess would be no, but But like I said, there are arguments for why it could, so let's see what happens. All right, DJ Riley writes. Where'd DJ go? There he is. DJ Riley writes, "Hey, John, hope you're having a good weekend. Film-loving brother, I am having a great weekend. Thank you for asking. I saw Sonic last night, and I give it a 5 out of 10. I thought the Sonic character was pretty decent, and Jim Carrey stole the show. Seeing Fantasy Island tonight, but I'm very skeptical. Yeah, the word out on Fantasy Island is that it's terrible, but, you know, I thought the trailers were so good. I'll probably check it out still myself. I'm with you. I would give it about a 5. You know what? I might even give it a 6. I thought the Sonic character was pretty decent. Jason Schwartz, I think, is the guy who does the voice. Anyway, he was really good. But you're right. Jim Carrey stole the show. It was vintage Jim Carrey. And I'm a big fan of James Marsden, so I always like seeing James Marsden in anything. But this was vintage Jim Carrey at his best. You know, I was a little bit afraid that it would come. Jim Carrey being in this would feel like a sad retread of Jim Carrey trying to do his shtick. It doesn't come across like that at all. It comes across as funny and charismatic, and I really liked his portrayal of Dr. Robotnik. I thought it worked a lot. So anyway, yeah, I'm roughly in there too. Again, not a good movie, but not a bad movie at the same time. I don't know that I could have hoped for much more from Sonic. But again, if you have kids, or if you're a hardcore Sonic fan, I think you're going to enjoy it. So I probably felt about it roughly the same way you did, DJ. All right, Slim Trav writes, what are the chances of a Jumanji 3 and Bad Boys 4? Better for Bad Boys 4. They're already starting to develop a Bad Boys 4. It hasn't been given an official green light yet, but I expect that it will. Jumanji 3, listen, it made $700 million, so that means it was profitable. And that's big. 700 million is big. That's a big number, but it wasn't as good as the last Jumanji, and it dropped by about 200 million from the last one. So while that is still a very good showing, 700 million is still a very, very good showing. I'm not super confident that they will make another one. I think it's 50-50 that they do a Jumanji one, so we'll see. DJ Riley writes, new list for you, movies on my iTunes library. First one, number 1, Ant-Man. Number 2, ATL. Number 3, Atomic Blonde. I think that's underrated. Number 4, Avengers Endgame. Number 5, Baby Driver. Edgar Wright, man. Number 6, Barber Shop, The Next Cut. Number 7, Batman Begins. Number 8, Batman vs. Superman, the Extended Edition. And number 9, Booksmart. That is a nice mix of films on there. I always like it whenever somebody sends in their list, whatever their list is, and it's not all just, it's all romantic comedies, or it's all comic book movies, or it's all this or whatever. I like it when you get a nice kind of mix of films in there, and I like that you had that, DJ. Well done. All right, let's see where we're at here. Topher Rocks writes, can you speak to the greatness of Dumb and Dumber? To me, it is the greatest comedy of all time. It was so many great lines, scenes, and so much charm and heart. It's as funny today as it was back in 1994. Jim and Jeff's chemistry was off the charts. I loved it. Yeah, it's not the greatest comedy of all time to me, but who doesn't love Dumb and Dumber? I'll tell you what. True story. This is where we quoted, because we quote Dumb and Dumber lines all the time. Around this house, because Anne loves Dumb and Dumber. But we went to a restaurant about 2 weeks ago. We went to a restaurant that has a patio, an outdoor patio, specifically for you to bring your dogs with you, right? And we thought, it wouldn't be great, we'll bring Shadow with us. And we took Shadow to this thing with us. And long story short, I had to take off my jacket because there wasn't anything for the dogs to lay on. It was a little cold out. It was actually kind of cold out. So I took my jacket off and put it on the ground, made a little makeshift bed out of it. So my dog Shadow, who's a little dachshund, so Shadow could curl up on my jacket and be warm and not have to be on the concrete. But I just had a t-shirt on underneath it. And even though I've got my Canadian blood, it was a little bit cold. So I was a little bit cold and blah, blah, blah. And so about 15 minutes after I took my jacket off and put it on the ground, because it's me, Anne, our friend Ryan, and Ray, Anne's brother Ray, who does graphics for the show. And so for about 15 minutes, I'm just like, man, I might have to get back in the car, honey, and drive back to your mom's house to grab one of my jackets, because I'm actually a little bit cold. She goes, oh no, yeah, maybe. She said, well, let's see what happens once the food comes. Maybe that'll warm you up. I'm like, okay. And the food comes. I'm like, yeah, I just started my food. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to need to run back to the house because it was only about 5 minutes away. I think I'm going to need to run back to the house to grab a jacket. And so now I'd been without a jacket for like 20 minutes. And then Ray goes, oh, hey, do you want to wear one of mine? I'm like, what do you mean wear one of yours? He had 2 jackets on. The whole time, I'm sitting there for like 20 minutes because my jacket's on the ground so my dog can be warm. And I'm like, oh. And like 20 minutes of doing this, Ray goes, oh, you want to wear one of mine? And so, of course, if you know Dumb and Dumber, you've had 2 pairs of gloves? So that was the line me and Hannah like at Ray. You've had 2 jackets this entire time. He's sitting there with 2 coats on, yeah, blah, blah. And I was sitting there with none. But anyway, so that was just one moment, another moment that a Dumb and Dumber reference comes into play. Dumb and Dumber is wonderful. And you know what? I know a lot of people didn't like Dumb and Dumber 2. I did. At first it was like, this is weird. But then, I don't know, it just started clicking for me. I like Dumb and Dumber 2. Not as much as the first one, granted, but the first one is great, Topher Rocks. No doubt the first one is great. All right, a fan of Peanuts writes, hello, my film brother. I watched the new Lion King. To be respectful, it didn't 100% work for me. The original is my all-time favorite animated film. Perhaps I ignorantly brought these enormous expectations in because it is my all-time favorite. Aladdin, I didn't do that, and I liked it. Great visuals. Hey, listen, you're not alone, fan of Peanuts. There's a lot of people that weren't happy with the Lion King remake. There's a lot of people who weren't. So you are not alone. I loved it. Not as much as the original animated film, clearly. That is my all-time favorite animated film, the original Lion King. But I actually really loved the Jon Favreau remake. I loved it. Not as much as the original, but I loved it nonetheless. But you, fan of Peanuts, are not alone. There were other people who didn't as well. So no, it's not on you. Movies are subjective. They will not work for everybody. They will not hit everybody the same way. And just because it hit me one way doesn't mean it's going to hit you the same way. So don't, hey man, you gave it a shot, didn't work for you. Oh well, that's movies, man. That's movies. Don't you worry about it one little bit. All right, fan of Peanuts writes, Michael B. Jordan or James Mangold to get an Oscar first. Oh, that's easy. Michael B. Jordan. Why? Because when a director is working on a movie, that takes up the totality of their attention, time, and energy for like 1 or 2 or 3 years. Whereas an actor can do like 4 movies a year. A director can't do that. So just the fact that Michael B. Jordan in the next number of years is going to be able to do so many more movies than James Mangold will as a director, the odds just say that Michael B. Jordan will be the one to get his first. All right. Spidey Sense writes, where'd he go? There he is. Hey, John, it's my first time tipping. Oh, thanks so much, man. We appreciate the support around here. But I've been a huge fan since the AMC storage closet days. Back when I started high school, I am now a junior in college studying physics. Nice. Good on you, man. I'm really thankful for your positive message and have loved movies. Let's get to your next one there. Have loved movies since I started watching you. Anyway, my question is, regarding the next Spider-Man movie, I've really enjoyed the first 2, but haven't got the New York swinging from buildings feel. Do you think / want them to focus more of the next movie in New York? Thanks, John. You know what? Robert Meyer Burnett was saying something along those lines, that he would really like to see Spider-Man back. He wants to see Spider-Man be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man again. Because Robert was making the argument that we haven't really got to see Spider-Man be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man yet. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. So I got to tell you, listen, I don't like to pre-write a script in my head. I want to let the filmmakers do whatever they want to do with the movie and then just go in and see what they do. And if that means he's in New York, great. If that means he's in Italy, great. If that means he's on the moon, great. But I want to see what the filmmakers do. But I'm kind of with you in a sense, you and Robert both, that it would be kind of nice just to see him come back to the neighborhood and be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. You know, not every movie has to be about saving the universe. Not every movie has to be about saving the world. Sometimes it's about protecting the neighborhood. And it would be nice to see something like that, or just protect the city, or it would be nice to see that. So I don't think it has to do that. I don't think it has to do that at all. But I'm with you, Spidey, that it would be kind of cool to see them do that. So I don't know. Let's see what they do, and I'm all up for whatever it is they're going to do. All right, Jay Meister25 writes, Birds of Prey was awesome and unapologetically brutal with tons of personality. Simple story, but sometimes simple is all you need. Solid A in my book. That's awesome. I'm glad you liked it, man. I mean, again, I've already kind of made it pretty well known that I did not. I was not big on Birds of Prey. I thought it was a poor movie. Not a terrible movie. Not a terrible movie. I just thought it was poor. But, again, films are subjective. I went in and watched it, and that's just kind of how it hit me. But you went in clearly, and it hit you in a totally different way, and that's awesome to hear, because I want everybody to love the movies they go to see, even if it's a movie I don't like. If I don't like a movie, that's fine. I don't like it. But I hope you like it, and I'm glad that you did. And listen, there were definitely, even somebody like me that didn't really like the movie, there were good things about it. For instance, I loved Ewan McGregor in it. And I thought the dynamic between Ewan McGregor's Black Mask and the Victor Zsasz character, I loved that dynamic. I thought that dynamic was great. Obviously, Margot Robbie is a treasure, so that was great too. So yeah, there were definitely things about the movie that I liked. So anyway, man, I think the important thing is that you had a good time with it, and I'm just glad that you did. Okay, let's move on here. A fan of Peanuts writes, I know you do not like the actor to play the character role, but it happened to me, John. I can't stop thinking about a Magneto, Charles Dance from Game of Thrones. But here's the problem with trying to come up with fan casting. What if the Magneto they're doing is nothing like Charles? Like, what if Charles Dance doesn't fit it at all? What if they want like a 40-something Magneto? Or what if they want that's why I don't get involved in the whole, I try not to do the X actor and X role thing, because I don't know how this character is actually going to be in the movie. They could do a version of Magneto where Charles Dance, who is a great actor, where Charles Dance is completely the wrong guy for it. So that's why I don't get involved in this thing. But hey, listen, if they were announced Magneto was going to be in an upcoming MCU movie and they announced Charles Dance would be in it, great. I mean, he's a good actor. That's all I care about. As long as they get a good actor, I'm good. All right. Joshua Howard writes, do you think the Batman will be R-rated? No. Nope. Absolutely not. It will not be R-rated. Fan of Peanuts writes, Oh, you're talking about Charles Dance again. He has command, present, respective voice. Again, yes, but for a particular way that you're seeing Magneto in your head right now. It all depends. Like, you and I don't know. Whenever they do get around to doing Magneto, you and I won't know what they're going for with that Magneto. You and I won't know what it is they're trying to do with that Magneto, what the personality of that Magneto is, what specific kind of presence they want that Magneto to have. And if we did read the script, we might go, oh yeah, Charles Dance is completely the wrong guy for it. But again, maybe he'd be the right guy. Don't know. All right. Anthony Lucilano writes, I just finished watching Stephen King's Maximum Overdrive. Oh, there's one. The green goblin ahead on the truck. And all I want to know is, John, is what idiot greenlit this steaming pile of horse fecal matter? There's 98 minutes of my life that I am not getting back. All right. This one is hard for me. Because Maximum Overdrive is clearly a film I saw when I was like much younger. And seeing the film, it has a special place in my heart. That is a movie that has a special place in my heart. Because at the time, the age I was at, the people I was with when I saw it. But then, when I watched it again years later, there's no doubting it was not all that good. It's really not that good at all. I'll tell you what. We recently had a discussion sometime in the last year. Rob and I were doing a show, and we had a discussion about what kind of Stephen King things that they have done in the past would we like to see them take another crack at. And I think Maximum Overdrive is one of the things I'd like to see another crack taken at, because the concept can be really good. But the execution, I believe it was Emilio Estevez, right? Was the main guy in that. The execution of it did not work out the way we wanted. I mean, whether it was the turkey cutting knife or the soda machines or, yeah. But it's such a cool concept. So I don't know, maybe they can do something different with it in the future. Who knows? All right. Fan of Peanuts writes, I watched Waves. That was a good one. Man, Woo Man, powerful, 9.5 out of 10 for me. My top 10 has been completed. Had I seen this sooner, it would have been in it. I'll tell you what, this is one of those films, Fan of Peanuts, because we've been talking a lot lately about how oh my God, how good was 2019 for movies? Like, there are at least 5, 6, or 7 movies that I cannot believe are not in my top 10. But it's just that there were so many incredible films this past year, that some remarkable movies are not making it into the top 10 list. Just Mercy. You know, we're just talking about Michael B. Jordan. Just Mercy. Didn't make my top 10. It's a remarkable movie. It's fantastic. Didn't make my top 10. Avengers Endgame. Super fun. Payoff to the whole of the MCU, blah, blah, blah. Didn't make my top 10. Waves. Incredible. Didn't make my top 10. I mean, that's just how packed of a year it was. And I think, you know, I've been saying this on the show a bunch lately. I think right now we are still in a period of time where we don't fully appreciate just how good of a year 2019 was for film. And I think it won't be for another 2 or 3 years that we're going to look back on 2019 and go, can you believe? Like, all these incredible movies came out that same year. It's kind of nuts. Anyway, John McKinney writes, what are the chances we'll see a Dark Reign movie? Has a lot of potential. It would also be a good way to introduce Norman R. Osborn into the MCU. Here's the thing that you always got to keep in mind. Look, they could do something like that, maybe. But whenever a comic book movie has been made that has the namesake of a particular comic story, it never sticks to it. You know, X-Men Days of Future Past is hardly anything like the comic story of X-Men Days of Future Past. Avengers Ultron, very different from the comic version of Ultron. Captain America Civil War, very different. There's some premise similarities, but that's about it. Otherwise, it's a totally different thing than the comic story run of Civil War. It's very, very different. And so whenever somebody says to me or asks me, hey, do you think they could do this particular comic story into a movie? My response is, well, maybe, but if they do, it probably won't be much like the actual comic story because they're trying to make the best movies they can. And, you know, there's often differences there. So I don't know. It depends. I mean, they could definitely take influences and add it in. You know, the new Matt Reeves Batman, he's mentioned several key Batman eras that he says he's drawing influence from. So we could totally see that. Or maybe they go straight up namesake, but you never know. Never know. All right. Fan of Peanuts writes, before I asked you if you'd keep King's Speech or Logan, you chose King's Speech. Yes, I did. Fair. Keep one, lose one. King's Speech or There Will Be Blood. Oh, that's easy. King's Speech. That's easy. There Will Be Blood is wonderful. And quite possibly, I'm not saying this definitively, but Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood might be the single greatest acting performance by any actor in any movie in history. I'm being serious. There is an argument to be made, I believe, that Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood might be the single greatest performance by any actor in any movie ever. I'm not 100% saying that. Maybe if I think about it, I might come up with 1 or 2 others, but that's in the conversation. But as a movie as a whole, There Will Be Blood is great. Don't get me wrong. There Will Be Blood is great. King's Speech is a top 15 movie of all time, I think, in my opinion. So if you're asking me, do I keep one and lose one, King's Speech or There Will Be Blood? I keep King's Speech. Let's see. Very inaccurate name. Somebody writes, Campea is God writes, just rewatched Takers 2010. Honestly, one of my favorite movies ever. On the screen chemistry was great. Not Academy Award winning or anything, but favorite guilty pleasure. Your thoughts? I was not a fan of Takers. That is the one, if I remember correctly, with Hayden Christensen. Let me just double check to make sure. It's the actual right one that I'm talking about. Takers in 2010. It should be Paul Walker as well. Hold a second. Takers. Hayden Christensen, Matt Dillon, Steve Harris, Paul Walker, Chris Brown, Michael I never know how to pronounce Michael Ealy. Ali? I never know how to pronounce his last name, but he's great. I love seeing him in everything, and I have no idea how to say his last name. Really interesting cast. Idris Elba is in it. A lot of reasons to have been hopeful for Takers. I did not like Takers. I got to admit, it's just one that didn't work for me. It has its moments. I don't think it's a steaming pile of garbage or anything like that, but I got to say it is one that really didn't work for me all that much. Yeah, I wish I did, though, because, again, Paul Walker, Hayden Christensen, Idris Elba, Matt Dillon, great lineup of a cast in there. T.I. is in there as well. But, yeah, it just didn't work for me, unfortunately. Did not work for me. But I'm glad you liked it, dude. That's one I don't hear a lot of people mentioning Takers these days, so that's a good one to bring up. All right, a fan of Peanuts writes, one of two, question. You've often said The Return of the King is the greatest cinematic achievement. That's what I believe. Yet Titanic won 11 as well. First 7 years earlier. My question is, do you feel the Academy recognition is a valuable achievement as well? Titanic was recognized in 14 categories. Return of the King 11. Yeah, but you see, here's the thing. Listen, Return of the King, sweeping the Oscars, winning all 11 Oscars that it was nominated for. That's never happened. For a movie that's gotten over like 6 or 7 Academy Award nominations. It's never happened. Probably will never happen again. But when I say, and I've often said that I feel like Return of the King is the single greatest achievement in filmmaking, I'm not saying that I think Return of the King is the greatest movie of all time. I'm simply saying when you look at all the disciplines that go into making a movie, visual effects, cinematography, art design, screenplay writing, acting, directing. Look, when you look at all the various wide-ranging different disciplines that go into making a film, I have never seen a movie where all the vastly different disciplines have all come together with such excellence, but also with such cohesion. I've never seen it like that before, like I've seen it in Return of the King. Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, I believe in that level is the single greatest achievement in that. But I don't say that because it won 11 awards. Like, I've never felt that Lord of the Rings, Return of the King is the single greatest achievement because it won the most Oscars than any other movie. No other movie's ever won more Academy Awards, which is true. No other movie in history has ever won more Academy Awards than Return of the King. But that's not why I think it's the greatest achievement. It's because I've just never seen the individual arts come together so well like that. Now, Titanic also won 11. And a third film, I've always known what it is, but I'm freezing on it right now. There's a third film that has also won 11. And I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. But getting Oscar nominations is absolutely a feather in your cap. Absolutely a feather in your cap. Listen, when there are like 500 films that come out and your film gets nominated as one of the top 5 in a particular category, that is a mantle of honor. That is an honor. And so, like Irishman didn't win any Academy Awards this year, but it was nominated a lot. And that is a huge honor. I think that says a lot about The Irishman that it was nominated in so many categories, because that ain't easy, man. That ain't easy. But again, don't confuse when I talk about feeling like, to me, that The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King is the greatest achievement because it won awards. That's not it at all. It's just I've never seen like the various disciplines and arts all be thrown together and done with such excellence, but also done with such great interconnected cohesion. I've just never seen it done to that level before. So that's why I personally feel that way. That's just me, though. That's just me. All right, Emad writes, keep one, lose one. Up or Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse? Ooh, that's tough. I'm going to keep Up. I mean, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is, I thought it was the third best movie of the year that it came out. I thought A Quiet Place was the best movie of the year. I thought BlacKkKlansman was the second best movie of the year. But I thought Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was the third best movie of the year. But Up, man, I might have thought Up was the first or second best movie of the year that it came out. I don't know. Up is just yeah. It's a painful choice, Emad. That's a painful choice. But I think I'd have to keep Up. I've never seen a movie make audiences cry in the first 10 minutes like Up did. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful openings to any movie ever. The first 10 minutes of Up is one of the most beautiful openings, not just of any animated film, but of any film ever in history. I don't know anybody who's ever watched Up and not been moved in the first few minutes of the movie. It's crazy. It's a painful Sophie's Choice, dude, but I'm going to keep Up. It's a Sophie's Choice, though. All right. Richard Karate writes, I've heard a rumor from several friends. I brushed it off at first as only one person told me, but now I've heard it from several people. Is there any truth to the rumor that Taron Egerton is the favorite to be the next Blonde? As far as I know, no. As far as I understand, the answer to that is no. But by the way, this is the thing. You got to be careful about, I've heard it from several people. It's much like when a ridiculous rumor comes out online, right? Some ridiculous rumor comes out online. And so, but John, I read it on like 5 different sites. Yeah, but where did each one of those sites get it from? Did they all come from the same place? And 9 times out of 10, they all come from the same place. And it's usually somebody's like, Eddie the gas station's attendance movieblog.org, like it usually, or from some anonymous Reddit post or whatever. So yeah, sure, 5 or 6 sites wrote about it, but they're all hearing it from they all got that from the same place. So that's cool that you've heard it from several different people, but they're probably all hearing it from the same place. So listen, anything is possible. Anybody could be cast to be the next James Bond, but I very highly doubt it's Taron Egerton. And I have personally heard nothing to back that up. I've heard several names from legit sources that have been suggested as that could be the next James Bond. That name has never come up from one of the legitimate sources. That doesn't mean it's impossible. It doesn't mean it's impossible. I'm just saying that from all the legitimate sources I've heard several names mentioned. That was never one of them. So I wouldn't put too much stock in it. But again, stranger things have happened. But I don't think there's any actual legitimacy to that at all, because I haven't heard it come from any legitimate place. So again, I wouldn't put $1 million that he's not, but I'd put $50 that he's not, probably. So no, I really don't believe that one at all. Never know, but for now, I don't believe it. All right. Richard also writes, Part 1. Peter Sarsgaard has been cast as an unnamed role in the Matt Reeves Batman movie. Yes, he has. With Joaquin's Joker being separate and not part of the universe, could Peter's character be Joker, Part 2? And with all the villains in this movie, if Peter is the Joker, would it be better to show him in an end credit scene to set up the Batman sequel? Okay, so let's start with the first thing here. There is absolutely nothing to suggest. There's been no evidence, nothing legitimate, nothing out there to remotely suggest that he is playing Joker. So let's just be clear about that right up front. There's been nothing to suggest that he's the Joker. So let me do something here quickly. I'm going to run over to, I'm going to go to the IMDb page of the Batman, right? So right now there's a whole bunch of people listed in the cast, including people by the names of Con O'Neill, Alex Ferns, Jamie Lawson. There's a bunch of names on here, right? Any of those names have just as much of a possibility as being the Joker. Any one of those names could be the Joker. Anybody in a Batman movie could be the Joker. So that's possible. But as far as we knew, there were no plans for the Joker to be in this movie. Now, not to mention, listen, IMDb is not 100% reliable before a movie comes out. After a movie comes out, you can believe what IMDb says. But before a movie comes out, it's a little bit questionable. But just so we know, as of right now, just for conversation's sake, Peter Sarsgaard is being listed right now as playing District Attorney Gil Colson. That's who he's being listed at. District Attorney Gil Colson. So Robert Pattinson right now is being listed as Bruce Wayne Batman. Andy Serkis as Alfred Pennyworth. Colin Farrell as Oswald Cobblepot. Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle. John Turturro as Carmine Falcone. Paul Dano as Edward Nashton / The Riddler. Yes, not Edward Nigma, which is a little bit too on the nose for a grounded movie. It's Edward Nashton, a.k.a. The Riddler. Peter Sarsgaard is listed as District Attorney Gil Colson. Jeffrey Wright is, of course, James Gordon. Alex Ferns is Commissioner Pete Savage. Jamie Lawson is playing Bella Real. And who knows what else. So it all signs point to that there is no Joker in this movie, and Peter Sarsgaard is particularly not going to play Joker. Now, you could make the universal argument that everybody always tries to make, but what if that's a misdirect? It's possible. We've seen misdirects in here before, but again, I just come back to the thing that there's been no suggestion or evidence or proof or any reason why we should even remotely think that Peter is playing the Joker. That said, on to the second part, we say, with all the villains in the movie, would it be better to show him in an end credit scene to set up the next Batman sequel? Well, that's kind of formulaic. That feels a little bit formulaic. But again, it's impossible to say when I don't know this. I haven't read the script to this Batman movie. Right? Understanding that all evidence points that Peter is not playing Joker. Okay, but for argument's sake, let's say he was Joker. Just for argument's sake. Would it be better to set him up in an end credit scene for the next movie? Well, the thing is, I don't know this movie. I haven't read the script. For all I know, if I read the script, I'd go, oh my God, this is perfect to slide Joker into, right? But without the script, I'm throwing darts blindfolded. I have no idea whether it would be better to put him in or it'd be better to save him for the next movie. I mean, I just don't know since I haven't seen the script. So I think it's safe to say Joker is not in this movie. I think it's especially safe to say that Peter Sarsgaard is not playing Joker. But if they were, would it be a good or a bad idea to have him in the movie, put in the next? It's impossible to say when I don't know enough about the movie. It's I try not to. I mean, I do this all the time. I'm guilty of this, but I try not to say what a movie should or shouldn't do when I don't even know anything about the movie, right? Though I admit I still do it, but I try not to do it. So I don't know, man. Let's see what happens. All I know, dude, I think you and I can both agree we are probably both pretty excited for this film and seeing what's going to come. And they've done a great job casting great talent. So let's see where they go with all of that. All right. Jose Miaz writes, is Hopper in Red Guardian? I'm not quite sure. I don't know. I'm not quite sure I know what Red Guardian is. Isn't that the character from the Black Widow? Is that what his name is in the Black Widow movie? I can't remember. Anyway, Mike T writes, hey, John, went to the casino last night. Nice. And won $150. So good weekend so far. So for the Sonic movie, I was wondering, for you, if the old Sonic model was in the movie, do you think you would have liked it less? No. See, I said going into the movie, somebody asked me a question on the show. Say, oh, if the movie flops, do you think it'll be because all the controversy and they changed the title? I said, no. Look, if Sonic flops, it'll have nothing to do with the fact that they changed the design. If this movie flops, and I don't think it will flop, but if this movie flops, it won't be because they changed the design. That'll have nothing to do with it. At the same time, if the movie makes $100 million opening weekend, I also think that has nothing to do with them changing the design. Look, the dialogue, the story, the script, everything was the same. All the voice work was already done. Nothing has changed in the movie except for what the character, some of the aesthetics of the character. It would have been the exact same movie. I would have felt the exact same way. I wouldn't have liked it any more if they kept the design the same. I wouldn't have liked it any less if they kept the design the same, because it's still the exact same movie, the exact same story, the exact same lines, the exact same conversations. Everything was 100% the same. It wouldn't have made any difference to me. I might have liked the design a little bit more, a little bit less, but it wouldn't have changed it for me in the least. So no, if they had kept the original design, I still would have liked it as much as I did, which is limited, but I would have liked it just as much. No more, no less. Anyway, that's my thought on that. Okay, next up, Fan of Peanuts writes, interesting trivia. In Dr. Sleep, the father of the child, let me try this again. In Dr. Sleep, the father of the child who played baseball that was killed brutally is Danny from the 1980 The Shining. I didn't know that. Is that true? Because if that's true, you're damn right. That is actually a really interesting bit of trivia. I did not realize that. I never knew that. That's pretty cool. So, of course, the kid, we all recognize the kid, right? But I didn't realize the father was that as well. That's a nice piece of trivia. Thank you for sharing that, dude. All right, ZOMG Ruler writes, thoughts on Dini's Batman, The Adventure Continues? I'm not familiar with it, so I can't comment on it, unfortunately. Ray Solo, not Skywalker, writes, at the end of The Rise of Skywalker, I heard Yoda say, alone never have you been. Criff, you a little green troll. Where the Criff were you when I was alone all those years on Jakku? Criff, you guys, I'm going to the world between worlds to get my husband back. You know what's funny? I'm forgetting the name. Jenny or Jenny something. You know how Screen Rant has those pitch meeting videos, and they're great. Jenny Nicholson. That's who I'm thinking of. Jenny Nicholson. Let me see if I can pull something up here. I don't know that I can, but I'm going to try here. I'm going to search for Jenny Nicholson Ray. See if I can find this. Okay. So you know how they have those I'm going to mute this. They have these Screen Rant has their pitch meetings, right? It was really kind of completely ripped off from what this girl Jenny Nicholson had been doing. And I'm going to bring it. If you guys haven't seen the thing about her, if Rey is a Skywalker, this just goes to the joke you were just telling. Because you were just telling this joke about, Rey, you've been with me all along. How come you abandoned me on this place? And blah, 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 blah. And all this kind of stuff. Like, that's exactly the jokes that she if you haven't seen this, look up Jenny Nicholson, Rey is a Skywalker. And watch it. It was done years ago. But it's really funny. And she does script pitch meeting videos as well. Again, long before I believe Screen Rant was doing them. Anyway, so this video is all about her going, wait a minute, how come I was left on Jakku? And goes into all that kind of stuff, like all the types of things you're just referring to. You should go check it. It's a really, really funny video. It's got like over 1.5 million views on that video. It's wonderful. You should go check it out. And then Jenny actually competed in a Star Wars Schmodown with me and a few other people at the Orlando Star Wars Celebration. And yeah, it was really good to meet her. Anyway, Fan of Peanuts writes, I'm not killing you, but I don't have to save you. I know that's such a cop-out line. That's such a cop-out line from Batman Begins. Great movie. Awesome movie, but such a cop-out line. All right, R. Lee writes, Fantasy Island is getting skewered in the reviews. Embargo lifted after the movie is released, but its budget was only $7 million. It's already made $5 million. How much does it need to be considered a success? Well, here's the basic math. You got to take your production budget, add your marketing budget, then take the total amount of money that the movie makes at the theater minus 30% or 33% to estimate the theaters, how much the theaters keep. So I'm figuring they probably put they didn't put a lot into marketing. I'm going to guess they probably only put I'm going to guess maybe at most they put $15 million into marketing this movie. Because I saw, other than YouTube trailers, I don't know that I saw any other marketing for it. So I'm going to go low. I'm going to guess they put $20 million into marketing. So, or let's even go lower, 15. So let's say that it costs $5 million to make, or $7 million to make, plus $15 million to market. So we'll say our cost is $22 million. That means after minusing 33%, it has to make about $35 million. So roughly $35 million at the box office, because you take $35 million, then minus about a third to come down to around that $22 million expense number. So my guess is that Fantasy Island needs to make around $35 million to break even. So whether it does that, I don't know. Let's see what the box office numbers are. But again, they didn't do a lot of marketing for it. And oh man, this movie's getting skewered. Like absolutely brutalized. All right. Matt Thornton writes, even though Once Upon a Time already did it, with all the Disney remakes, I'd love to see a Peter Pan film with Pan as the villain and Hook as the hero. Huh. Oh, Once Upon a Time, you're talking about the TV show. I thought you meant Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Huh. You know, we've actually seen that done a couple of times where it's like a movie or a show would take a classical hero and a classical villain, but you realize that the hero was the dick all along. Anyway, that's not a bad idea. Like, Hook is just this pirate in Neverland and just kind of doing his thing and being his own guy. And all of a sudden this kid comes along and starts tormenting him. This kid with superpowers shows up and starts tormenting him and making his life a living hell. I mean, that, you know what? Sign me up. I think that sounds at least, at minimum, it sounds at least like an interesting concept. So sign me up for that. I'd be down for it. Why not? All right. A fan of Peanuts writes, personally, the only film I would have taken out of the Best Picture category is Once Upon a Time. Yeah, I would have taken that out of the Best Picture category as well. For me, I would have put Farewell, Waves, or Booksmart in. Yeah, but only one of them can go in. That's the thing. See, I think I would have taken out, and I'm glad you brought up the Farewell. I would have taken out Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I don't think it's one of Quentin Tarantino's best films. I just don't. But that's just me. I think I probably, as much as I loved Waves, as much as I love Booksmart, as much as I love Just Mercy and a lot of other films like that, I think The Farewell is the one that I give that last spot to. I certainly feel like The Farewell was a much better film overall than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but that's just me. It's all subjective. But I think I would have taken that one out and put in The Farewell. All right, Jaron Morris writes, and we just got a few minutes left here, guys. Jaron Morris writes, hey, John. I would love your thoughts on UFC 247, especially the whole judges situation. And Matt Reeves has stated the bat symbol on the, well, one question at a time, has stated the bat symbol on the new suit is made from the guns that killed Bruce's parents. Nice. I have not heard Matt Reeves say that. So if that is true, then that's official. Please somebody send me a link to where Matt Reeves himself said that, because I haven't seen that. But if it is, that's actually really kind of cool. The UFC 247, the judging situation was a embarrassment. It was an absolute embarrassment. The judging in that whole card was disgraceful. And you know, Joe Rogan even pointed out a couple of times where he goes, look, and he would point over to the judges as the fight was going on. The judge isn't even watching the fight. The judge isn't even watching the fight. And they were like, while the fights are going on, the judge wasn't even watching the fight. He was like, had his nose in his phone. You're a judge of this fight. And he wasn't even watching the fight. And listen, I'm sorry to all the John Bones Jones fans out there. And John Bones Jones is great. But he lost that fight. He lost that fight. Dominic Reyes won that fight, and he should be the light heavyweight champion right now. And listen, if that fight went 3 more rounds, John Bones Jones probably eventually wins. If that fight went 3 more rounds. But in a 5-round fight, sorry, John Bones Jones fans, Dominic Reyes won that fight. And he should be the new champion. And don't give me this BS. Oh, yeah, but if you're the champ, you got to get thoroughly beat to. No, he lost. Dominic Reyes had the better fight. He had the better fight. He landed way more significant strikes. John Bones Jones was always moving forward, but he was getting punched in the face while he was doing it and not making any damage on Dominic Reyes, by the way, until you get into the 4th and 5th round. Anyway, Dominic Reyes won that fight. So I thought the judging overall, and there were other fights that were very questionable. I thought the judging overall was an embarrassment. It was an embarrassment to the sport. Anyway, and I thought that before the light heavyweight title fight. Before the light heavyweight title fight, I thought this is embarrassing. I mean, it was terrible. Absolutely terrible. All right, just time for a couple more questions here, guys. Then we're going to wrap it up for the day. Michael Redhead writes, the UK seemed to have renamed Birds of Prey by putting Harley Quinn at the front of the title. Have you seen this before? Again, we talked about this on the show the other day. It's also North America. Movie ticketing services have renamed the movie from Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, which was never a good title, to Harley Quinn - Birds of Prey. So that's not only happening there, that has also happened in North America. Too little, too late. It is what the movie should have been called in the first place, because this movie is not a Birds of Prey movie. It's not a Birds of Prey movie in the least. Hell, Huntress doesn't even really become a part of the movie until the 3rd act of the film. It never should have been called that. Even from a marketing perspective, the only one people care about in this movie is Harley Quinn. And so that should have, Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, should have been the name of this movie right from the beginning. Too little, too late. It's a good move, but too little, too late, unfortunately. All right. Captain Chicken Pants writes, hey, John, check out Men, Women, and Children 2014, another serious role by Adam Sandler and your crush Jennifer Garner, among many others, based on the popular book by Chad Kultgen about broken families. Yeah, and it was about the cell phone stuff and all that kind of. Oh, I've seen the movie. Yeah, I like it. Not one of my favorite outings by Adam Sandler in kind of a dramatic role, to be honest with you. I didn't dislike the movie. But to me, it wasn't a particularly memorable one. But I don't know, maybe I need to go, it's been like 5 or 6 years, maybe I need to go and revisit it. Because I remember, because Adam Sandler, and it was kind of a thing, and of course, Jennifer Garner, I remember being quite excited for it, and it was all right. But I don't know, maybe after 6 years, I need to go back and revisit it again. Maybe I'll have a new appreciation for it. Thanks for bringing it up, Captain Chicken Pants. All right, Ben Rayner writes, John, over under 5%, John Constantine from the Arrowverse pops up in Lucifer Season 5 of Lucifer. Maybe it's a contractual deal with CW for that Crisis crossover. Like, we'll give you Tom if you give us Matt for an episode or scene. 5% is really low. So you know what? I'll say over 5%, but barely. Like maybe 7%. So I'll take the over. Here's the difference. Lucifer is incredibly popular. Constantine from the CW universe is not massively popular. So I don't know that they would even want it. And honestly, I don't know that they really want them associating with it. So, but 5 is a really, really low number. So I'll take the over on it, but barely. I think it's a near impossibility, but I'll give it like a 7% chance. So I'll take the over on 5%. All right. Let's see here. What's next? Collins E. writes, Entertainment Weekly reported earlier this year that Dennis Haysbert would be playing God in Lucifer Season 5. You know what? I forgot all about that. I think you're right. I think I remember that. Unless I'm thinking of something else, I think that's a good point. So yeah, maybe that just goes to show that, yeah, we're going to see it. It makes sense though, right? Like the final season, this whole show has been about Lucifer and his anger at his dad. And if this is what they thought was going to be the final season, that would make sense. And you're right. I do remember that now that you bring it up. Good catch on that, Colin. Very, very good catch. All right. Michael Redhead writes, live action Spider-Verse as a fan or Sony. Let me try this again. Live action Spider-Verse as a fan or Sony, would you give as a fan or Sony, live action Spider-Verse as a fan or Sony, would you give, you probably meant of Sony. Okay, let me try that again. I'm going to assume you meant of Sony. Okay. Live action Spider-Verse as a fan of Sony, would you give Tom Holland multiple roles, or B, cast de-aged Maguire or Garfield? Which would you pick? Neither. I don't like either. I wouldn't. I think the Maguire Garfield thing that a lot of people keep throwing around, I think that's really cool for a Saturday Night Live sketch, or pretty cool for a 5-minute or a 10-minute YouTube funny video, but I don't think it actually works in a movie. So I wouldn't do either. I much preferred Spider-Man, the animated Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse's approach. Each Spider-Man was very different. Spider-Man was very different from each one of them. And I would kind of go that direction. So honestly, I wouldn't go with either of those. Either multiple Tom Hollands or the Maguire. I definitely would avoid the Maguire Garfield thing. I would avoid that at all costs. I don't think that's a good idea in the least. I think it would just be too shticky. And again, great for a Saturday Night Live sketch or great for a 10-minute YouTube sketch, but I don't think it would work in the movie. So I'm going to go with neither. I'm going to go with neither on that one. I'm sure there are a lot of people who would go for it, and that's great. For me, though, I don't think either one works. I like the animated films approach. All right, Suthius writes, is that a new chair I see? Oh, yes, it is, dude. You have no... I have... we set this chair up the other day. I so love this chair. It is so much better. I'm actually comfortable sitting in this chair. I love it so much. So yes, it is. Thank you for noticing, Suthius. So Suthius also writes, I think I'm CW'd out. Haven't caught up in weeks. You know what? Other than Supernatural, I checked out. I didn't mean to. I didn't plan on it, but I've checked out of the CW Arrowverse ever since the Crisis on Infinite Earths. I don't know if it's because I found Crisis on Infinite Earths so utterly disappointing, or it's because Arrow is the backbone of that whole universe, and him being gone now just makes me lose my interest. I don't know which it is, but I didn't plan on checking out of the Arrow. I haven't even watched a single Flash episode yet, or I don't even know if Flash has come back yet or not. But if it has come back, I haven't watched it, and I like Flash. I don't know if so it wasn't a conscious decision, but I think I've checked out of the Arrowverse as well. All right. Next up, Dimsum05 writes, Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, or Skyfall. Got a recommendation from YouTube for an MI4 review and forgot how exciting now only that movie is. And forgot how exciting now only that movie is. But the score is fabulous. Bird plus Giacchino 2020. MI4 for me, if you couldn't tell, by the way. I gotta admit, Dim Sum, I have no idea what it is you're asking. If you're simply asking, do I think Ghost Protocol or Skyfall was the better movie? I'm gonna go Skyfall. I like Ghost Protocol. You guys know I like Ghost Protocol, but I gotta go Skyfall on that one. But I am very, very excited for more Mission Impossible and very, very excited for the next Bond. So let's see how that goes. But if I gotta choose between Ghost Protocol or Skyfall, I'm gonna go Skyfall. Let's see. Ivana writes, what's better, Sonic or Birds of Prey? I actually prefer Sonic over Birds of Prey. Other people will have different answers, but if you're asking me, I didn't love either. I didn't hate either. But I would at least say that, Sonic's all right. Not good. Not bad, but it's all right. Whereas Birds of Prey, I'm a little bit more negative. So I didn't love either. I didn't hate either. But if I had to pick one of the two, I would pick Birds of Prey. Okay. Last question of the day, guys. Well, you know what? I'll get through this one, then just rapid fire a couple of more, and then we got to wrap things up here. We've been almost going 2.5 hours now. Dimsum05 writes, now that Joker, the character, has won 2 Oscars, what does that say about the character? Easier to adapt than other comic book characters, most intriguing comic book character, both. Maybe I'm just looking too much into it. Can't be a coincidence, so it's an absolute coincidence. It is 100% a coincidence. These are 2 movies. I mean, otherwise, Jared Leto would have won an Academy Award, and he did not. It's just that you have these 2 movies that were both utterly exceptional movies, with The Dark Knight and Joker. And both of these characters were done remarkably different. There is very, very little similarity between Heath Ledger's Joker and Jared Leto's Joker. They were done very, very differently. But the key is they both came from incredibly celebrated films. And listen, if the year that The Dark Knight came out, they had been nominating more than 5 films for Best Picture. Because remember, the year The Dark Knight came out, that was the last time they only had 5 nominees for Best Picture. Now they can have anywhere between 7 and 10. But if it hadn't been for that just 5 nominees rule, Dark Knight would have been nominated for Best Picture. So it helps that these are 2 movies where the characters were in Best Picture nominated films. So yeah, I 100% believe it is completely coincidental. These are great filmmakers who took characters and decided to do something really different and twisted with them and all that kind of stuff in their own way, unique way. And it just so happens that one 10 years ago, won an Academy Award for supporting, and then 10 years later it happened again. But it's not just because of Joker, otherwise we would have seen Jared Leto get it, right? It's also about what did they do with the character, how good was the movie that they were in, all that kind of stuff. So I do believe it's a little bit more coincidental than not. All right. Suthius writes, now I can't wait to see how the new Batmobile will look. I am also very excited. I was just telling Rob about that. I'm really curious to see what they do with the Batmobile in this one. All right. Suthius also writes, still going to the Olympics. Cody has tickets for you. Well, Cody doesn't have tickets for me yet because Cody is not officially in. Remember, the swimmers don't know if they're going to be on the Olympic team or not until 3 weeks before the Olympics. 3 weeks before the Olympics are the actual Olympic trials. And you got to win those. So there is no swimmer who has booked a ticket yet to be on the Olympic team. Cody has been swimming amazingly and winning a lot of competitions, but it doesn't matter until the Olympic trials. The Olympic trials, which aren't until 3 weeks before. So no, I don't know yet if I'm going yet to support Cody or not, because he doesn't even know officially yet if he's going. That's the crazy thing about this. All right. Dapper Dave writes, Todd Phillips' version of Harley Quinn or origin story. Thoughts? Nah. I like what he did with Joker very much, but no, I'm not interested in his idea on Harley Quinn. Let's see. Suthius writes, 0.01 was a semester GPA of mine in college once. Oops. Spencer's writes, this will be the last question of the day, guys. I'm going to take two more, then we'll wrap it up. Spencer's writes, the impact of trailers is a great topic for a documentary. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. I'm excited to see it. How are you able to show the trailers in your film? Do you have to have permission from the studio, or is it a fair use situation? Just curious. It is very much a fair use situation. I had to go to lawyers and get legal opinions before I even started. Before I started anything on my documentary, I had to go and speak to a couple of lawyers. I laid out what I was going to be doing for my film, and that I plan to use movie trailers as examples in the film, and I got legal opinion from both of them saying, yes, this will be completely covered under fair use. So that's how I did it. Now, don't go thinking that means you can do whatever you want with movie trailers. That's not true. There are very specific guidelines that I had to meet, and there's very specific rules I need to follow and able to fall under the protection of fair use doctrine. So don't think that me saying I get to use them because that means, anybody can just go and take movie trailers and use them for anything they want. That's not true. There are very specific circumstances and very specific guidelines and rules that I need to follow, and certain thresholds that I have to meet. But once I do those things, then I'm clear to use them in my documentary about movie trailers, because then under that circumstance, it does fall under the doctrine of fair use. Good question, Spencers. And, but you never know. I can still have legal problems come up, but I think I'm pretty good. I think with the legal advice I've been getting, I think I'm pretty good. All right. Final question of the day comes to us from Mike T54, who sends in a really big super chat. Thank you for supporting the channel on that level, Mike. We appreciate it. Years ago, you talked about assigned theater seating and subscription-based theater going. I thought no chance in hell those catch on. Years later, I use both regularly. Thanks for opening my eyes, John. I'll never question you again. Oh, always question me. Oh, I say some gold nuggets, but I also lay some coal once in a while. So always question. Questioning is healthy. Questioning is healthy. Always question. I am not always right. That is obvious. But yeah, I have been, as of about 10 years ago, I kind of started my own little personal crusade about the dark ages that we lived in North America, that you went to a movie theater and you didn't have a pre-assigned seat. It is the most idiotic thing in the world. Everything else you go to, when you buy a ticket to something, you know where your seat is. This whole dark ages thing that, I got my tickets to a movie, but I got to go to the theater an hour and a half early to stand in line to make sure I don't get a terrible seat. I mean, that's so stupid. And it became kind of my one-man crusade to try to really, really constantly talk about the issue that movie theaters need to have pre-assigned seating. And now, thankfully, the majority of theaters, because everywhere else in the world has had it forever. Every other civilized nation in the world has had it forever. So thankfully today, the vast majority of movie theaters have pre-assigned seating. We have moved out of the dark ages. There are still some stragglers and they need to catch up. But yeah, that's always been a big thing to me because it's always hurt my movie-going experience. Going to movies, you don't even know where you're going. You don't know if you're going to have to sit in the front row or not. That shouldn't be a part of movie-going. You get online, you buy your ticket, you know where your seat is, and you show up at showtime. You don't have to worry about showing up 2 hours earlier just to make sure you don't get a bad seat, or hope that you and your friends are going to be able to get seats together. That was always the stupidest thing. A group of 5 friends would go to the movies, and it'd say we get there 40 minutes early, but we should have got there 2 hours early, and all of a sudden now we can't find 5 seats together, and we got to split up and not be able to enjoy the movie together. This was stupid. So stupid. Today, we got a group of 5 or 6 people going. No problem. We can hop online, pick 5 seats together, buy them. Boom. Done. We don't have to get there 2 hours early. We don't have to rush in like mad sheep when they open the doors and rush in and trample each other trying to grab a good seat or anything like that. So much better, Mike. So much better. Anyway, that will do it for today, guys, for this installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here. Listen, there's still more questions to come. Comchia, Suthius, Major Tom, Kevin Katikin, and others. Do not worry, guys. I'm going to do a companion video tomorrow on Sunday. I'm going to do a companion video tomorrow, and we're going to get through all the remaining questions. Your questions, you sent them in to support the channel, so your questions are going to get answered properly in a video. So look for that companion video tomorrow. Don't forget, guys, the John Campea Show returns again on Monday. Also, keep your guys' eyes open for this shirt. They are on the way, and once they get here, I'm going to be doing a giveaway. We'll announce the rules and how we're going to do a giveaway of these shirts. And maybe you guys will be one of the first to sport one of these shirts. I'm really excited about it because I really, really dig the shirt. Anyway, guys, that will do it for me. Thank you to everybody for joining us and making this show a part of your weekend. And a special thank you to all of you guys who sent in questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about, even when they're like challenging and when we disagreements and stuff like that. That's always when it's most fun being a film fan. So thank you to all of you for sending in those questions. But also number two, because you supported the channel while you did it. And all of us here on the John Campea YouTube channel, thank you very much for supporting the content that you enjoy. We appreciate it deeply. And don't forget, guys, if you want to start sending in questions for Monday's John Campea Show early, you can do that anytime, 24/7. Go on over to the tip link that's in the top line of the video description below, or you can see it here, streamelements.com/themovieblogtv/tip. Go ahead and do that, and your question will be one of the first answered on the John Campea Show on Monday. Okay, guys, that will do it for me for now. Thanks so much for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.